and one. Yo, what is good, folks? It's your boy Sports PSP. Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast. Hope everyone is enjoying a fantastic Friday evening. Hope everyone just had a wonderful day from work. Hope everyone is enjoying the rest of the weekend. Football, college football, NFL. Enjoying the last few days of summer because fall is approaching. So everyone, summer's almost gone. We're approaching fall. But also, just to be blessed, man. Just to be blessed, just to be happy and healthy. Got my crew, BRF Sports. How you doing, brother?
Man, finished a good long week of work. Got the weekend to relax. Man, it's been good. We're throwing a birthday party for my little niece tomorrow. She turned 6 on Tuesday, so hopefully gonna be a nice little turnout.
Oh,
but
nice.
but hey, I mean, God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. We gotta be forever thankful for this opportunity that He's given to us and the situation. What He's put on us, and we got to make the most of it. So life is good. Cannot complain. As long as you get to wake up another day on this earth, bro. You can't. Hey, what is there to complain about?
Hey, God is good all the time. No question about that. And of course, my man, undisputed world champ. Please go like and subscribe to his content. Go check out his podcast. Had a great podcast last night. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm glad you said the fall is here, man. The boys of the fall, man. Boys of the fall. Shout out to Jackie Robinson, the late great one. So, hey, the summer is gone. The boys of the fall are here, man. So, God bless everyone, man. Hey, like I always say, always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor. Almost at 18,000, man. Hell of a job.
We at 18.
Oh,
bro.
There we go.
Yeah.
We gonna try to hit 20,000 by the end in the next couple of weeks because October the 12th, Sports PSP birthday. So we're gonna try to do something big for Sports PSP. He turns 31, the big 3-1.
Let's go.
Fellas, yeah, we gonna rock and roll. Oh, and we got one more dude in the building, Grant. How you doing, brother?
How we
The
doing, boys?
homie, what's happening?
What's
What's
up, boys?
going
How we
on?
doing? What's going on? What's going on? What's good? It's good. Pleasure
man.
to be on the podcast. Salute to you, PSP, and salute to the rest of the gang. It's been a good
Thank you,
week, watching some football here. Got the Braves on right here. Praying to God they don't sell. Before we begin, BRF. Ohtani's not human. I think he's a robot. I honestly think he's a robot. 50-50. I watched that game yesterday, and when he hit that home run, I put my headphones on. I'm like, I'm gonna have a stroke.
Bro, I know. Let me tell you something. Like after the podcast, when the podcast was getting ready to end last night, I said, "Man, I'm probably about to just bite the bullet and do an Ohtani video." Let me tell you, because I used to play like DFS, FanDuel, DraftKings. I don't do it like I used to do it. If you take his stat line and equate it into DraftKings and FanDuel points, he scored 81 DraftKings points or 118.1 FanDuel points by himself last night.
He's not human. It's just crazy how on the Angels, it's like he had nothing, and you give him the Dodgers, and he literally took him 1 year, and he just lights up baseball. I'm sorry, I had to get that out, but my God,
Flash had posed the question: is he the best baseball player of all time? I said he's probably the most talented because a lot of people like to do best and most talented. He's not the best baseball player of all time, in my opinion. That's still Barry Bonds, but most talented.
Thank you.
But most talented of all time.
Yeah, I give it a Ohtani.
Most talented. I don't think it's a debate anymore because when he's completely healthy, he is an MVP hitter. He's an MVP candidate as a position player, and he's a Cy Young candidate as a pitcher. That's how sick he is. That's how sick he is.
He's just so broken. It's not even.
He is. He is. He's the most broken player we've ever seen.
And he's great, man. Shout out to Shohei Ohtani. Fellas, we gotta talk about Bryce Young. The news came out after the Chargers game. He's benched. Andy Dalton will now be starting for the Carolina Panthers in week 3. It's been tough for Bryce Young. As a starter, he's 2-16 in his career in the NFL. Look, two things could be true. Bryce Young hasn't been playing particularly well as the number 1 overall pick. And remember, but at the same time, this is on the Carolina Panthers as an organization, because for those who want to say Bryce Young, and I was listening to Stephen A. Smith on ESPN First Take, and he talked about Jamarcus Russell becoming a bigger bust than Jamarcus Russell. I think that's more on the Carolina Panthers organization, because you look at Baker Mayfield, you look at Sam Darnold, they were there. And guess what? They're able to go elsewhere and thrive. I think with Bryce Young, and I thought about this, Carolina should consider trading him. And I would like to see him in a team, Pittsburgh or Miami, because we talked about Tua last week on the show, and none of us want to see Tua back on that field, considering his durability history. I think that the Carolina Panthers should consider a trade for Tua, consider something for Bryce Young. Trade him, help him go elsewhere. The biggest problem with the Carolina Panthers has been the owner, David Tepper, because look at some of the moves, look at some of the records. I mean, he was supposed to be there to replace Jerry Richardson, and so far it's been absolutely atrocious. And shout out to our guy Harrison. Anyone who knows Harrison, he's a diehard Carolina Panthers fan. But at the same time, again, Bryce Young, it always goes back to the 2023 NFL draft. Him or CJ Stroud. Yes, CJ Stroud is thriving in Houston. I've said he was the best quarterback coming out of that draft. I think for Bryce Young, I don't think he's a bust, but I do think he needs to go elsewhere to resurrect his career. But Grant, I'm gonna let you go first. What were your thoughts about the Carolina Panthers benching Bryce Young? I think this was a good move on their part, because I think Bryce Young's confidence at this point is gone. And I think Andy Dalton there to step in and play, I think it'll help out, give Bryce Young some time to reevaluate some things and help him mature and grow. What do you think about the decision to bench Bryce Young?
Well, look, PSP, honestly, coming from my perspective, I kind of knew they were going to go down this route. I think you're going to get to a point with a lot of people were surprised by it. Me personally, I wasn't, because I felt like this was a move that was coming. But my biggest thing is I see a lot of the narrative around this move is going around Bryce Young. And again, I think more it's the organizational issue with the Panthers. When Bryce Young was drafted, this team didn't really have a strong setup for him to work with. In my opinion, the only offensive weapon that he had that was going to be of some sort of usage to him was Adam Thielen. And after that, the rest of the season went to the dumps. David Tepper's fighting people at bars. Their stadiums are completely empty. They go into this season, it's the exact same. And I look at this more on a bigger level. One of my biggest issues with the NFL is when you take a guy straight out of college, like a 21, 22-year-old guy, and you place him in a position like that. If you have nothing for him to work with, how do you expect him to succeed? And I still look, Bryce Young is an amazing guy. In college, he was a great quarterback. But looking at what Carolina has been doing and the structure they have set up, it really didn't give him a lot to work with. And look, I'm not trying to excuse that for Bryce Young's play. It's been horrible. He has not played at the level that he needs to. I'm not trying to hold this off as an excuse. But when I look at what I'm seeing right now from Carolina, they have nothing built up for this team to succeed. And it's like you expect any guy to go into that room and work perfectly. I don't even think if you put CJ Stroud in that room right now in Carolina, if they took him, I don't think he would have been able to do a ton. In Houston, they had solid weapons. They got Tate Dell. They had Nico Collins. They had these other players on that roster that gave him a route where it was like, even if he didn't have that great season, if he went even above par, people could say, okay, it's fine. But we saw what happened when he had weapons. He had one of the best offensive seasons from a rookie we've seen in the past 10 years. Meanwhile, when you look at Bryce Young, they've given him nothing, and they throw him out there and be like, you'll be fine. Just get us a 10-win season. And everyone was calling off his head last year. 2 games, I think 3 or 3 games, everyone was calling for his head. And this, again, is the issue I have. You can't expect to give somebody that's like if you ask me to build a Lego set and you give me the box and there's nothing in there. Like, how do you expect me to build it if you're giving me nothing? And so I'm not trying to excuse Bryce Young's play. He's been horrible. And I know Andy Dalton's going to come in, but I don't know really what else is left to say. They're probably going to go losing. This is going to be the worst team in the league, in my opinion. The offense isn't able to get anything going. The defense, pass rush, secondary is garbage. I can say that from my perspective. I watched that Saints game. It was awful. And at the end of the day, as much as I want to feel for Bryce, we want to put this blame on Bryce Young. We got to understand that expecting these quarterbacks to succeed in such dire conditions never works for the people in the end. And it's unfortunate for Bryce, but right now in my position, the Carolina Panthers are probably going to end up being rock bottom, and I don't think all the blame should be put on Bryce Young.
Well, you make a very valid point, Grant. And like I said before, the organization, the ownership, it comes down to, and I just think with Carolina, they have a lot of work to do, especially with the organization, because until they do something, I don't know what's going to happen. But that's what happened. As Champ always says all the time, quarterback can't throw behind his back. Bryce Young is not the biggest quarterback in the world. He's listed at 5'10", 204. I don't even think if you put Patrick Mahomes under these types of circumstances, he will succeed, because I just don't think the Carolina Panthers, they have nothing to look forward to. But we'll discuss that later on. But BRF, what are your thoughts about the Panthers benching Bryce Young?
I mean, I kind of got to piggyback off of what Grant said, man. I think this was a move a lot of people really saw coming, and I mean, you do have to feel for you. Like, I mean, you do got to feel for him, because he's not exactly like the Carolina Panthers aren't exactly laden with talent, but in some situations that have been kind of like similarly bad, some quarterbacks have at least shown flashes. You know, like you take like a Justin Fields in Chicago. He, like, I think a D-Man was actually talking about it on one of the podcasts. I'm gonna give a shout out to D-Man. Justin Fields at least showed some flashes with the Chicago Bears before, you know, they ultimately traded him because they felt like he wasn't the answer. Like, there have been rookie quarterbacks that have at least shown flashes. Bryce Young never did that. Never did that. Even in the games they won, it almost felt like the opposing team gave it to them. Like, they didn't like what they could win. It's like they didn't take it. Like, they didn't like go get it. Like, the opposing team kind of just gave it to him in a way. So he still wasn't even really like popping off of the screen every so often. Like, he showed like his was more like a glimpse here and there. Like, he'll make a play running, you know, and make a play with his legs, or he'll kind of, escape the pocket, prolong a play, but like nothing like no standout games really for him. So but honestly, I think I think ultimately it does go back to the organizational structure of the Carolina Panthers and how they run it, because they are the worst. Right now they are the worst run franchise in the NFL. I mean, their owner's a joke. I mean, their front office is like they don't have a clue what they're doing. And the thing is, they actually went out and they tried to do something. They actually improved their offensive line. They actually went out and got Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh. They drafted Jatavian Sanders, who's one of the best tight ends coming out in college. I mean, they drafted Jonathan Brooks, even though he's coming off of an injury. I mean, they tried to do stuff. It's just that it's like the morale is shot. It's like the team is just like going through the motions, and it's just like they're not good. It's just like the collection as a whole just isn't clicking, and when that happens for a team, it's hard for you to win games because there's no camaraderie, there's no chemistry, there's nothing built up that you can take from game to game. It's like there's no silver linings with this team, like from game to game. It's like nothing they do right now is something they can take from a previous game, build on it, and try to get better. So it's like where do you go? And I think a lot of people definitely saw the benching coming. Now, me personally, I hear people saying, "Oh, sit him down, let him develop." No, in my opinion, he's finished there. You can't go back to him now. You can't. And that's how I feel like him, and that's what I feel like with most situations when you have a guy and you start him like right off the bat as a rookie. If he struggles and then he gets to that point, like maybe second, third year, and he still hasn't really improved much, the second you bench him is done. Once you bench him, it's done because you're basically put the weight of the franchise on his shoulders. The minute you say you're not good enough to be a starting quarterback, he got to go. He got to go. And I've seen reports saying Carolina's not going to trade him in the offseason. Y'all better backtrack. Y'all need to backtrack. Y'all need to take all that back, and you need to look and see what you can get for him. You have to go in another direction. You can't save it at this point. You cannot save it. He's done there. So if I'm Carolina, I backtrack. I may come out and say we're not trading him. I'm taking phone calls. See if you can get at least do that. See if you can get some draft capital for him. Like I saw a proposed trade, which actually is actually kind of interesting. It was a 3-team proposed trade between the Rams, Dolphins, and Panthers, where the Rams get Bryce, the Dolphins get Matthew Stafford, and then the Panthers get the Dolphins second and the Rams third.
I can see that working.
That would be nice.
I like that from the standpoint of the Rams are now officially in rebuild mode. So in my opinion, it's almost like it's bad when you have, like, if you're the LA Rams and you have that one game against the Arizona Cardinals and the Arizona Cardinals beat you so bad. Matthew Stafford is now officially on the trading block, according to a lot of media heads. That is bad. But it's because Puka Nacua is hurt. Cooper Kupp is hurt. They're both on IR. So basically your two best wide receivers.
And hey, you give Matthew Stafford some weapons and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and plus he can actually compete in that division with Allen and Rodgers.
Let me tell you something. If they were to swing that and the Miami Dolphins were to get Matthew Stafford, in my opinion, they jump to the top of the AFC East. Just off of that offense alone, because Matthew Stafford for me is the quarterback that the Miami Dolphins would absolutely love, because even at this stage of his career, he still has one of the elite arms in the National Football League, and you're giving him Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to throw the ball to on a weekly basis. It's almost like the Patrick Mahomes situation in Kansas City, having Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. The man can't overthrow him. He can't overthrow him. You could run
a running game with Mostert as well too.
Oh, with Mostert in that chain. Oh my, bruh. I'm just saying it, because most proposed trades are like, what the hell are we talking about? This one actually is a good trade. I like it. But going back to Bryce, I don't know. I feel for him because I felt like the Carolina Panthers they put him in a no-win situation. And I think what really got the ball rolling was when they traded DJ Moore. When they traded DJ Moore, that's when you look and you're just like, you're going to draft Bryce Young and you're going to trade his best offensive weapon? What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And don't get me wrong, Adam Thielen is still he's still a decent wide receiver. He's still a decent route runner. He's still got hands. But he's not what he was in his prime in Minnesota. I mean, it's safe to say. So I don't know, man. It's just, I think you have to take calls for him. Like at this point, going into the offseason, I don't think the relationship. if the Carolina Panthers somehow were able to rebuild that relationship and he became the starting quarterback again, this would be the first time in a long time you could give the Carolina Panthers coaching staff and the front office kudos for trying to find a way to rebuild his confidence. But at this point, I think you have to take calls and I think you have to look into trading him at this point. But I feel for him because I don't know. I think he just needs to be in a situation where he's got adequate talent around him, because even when you look at him in Alabama was stacked. I mean, they were stacked. They had NFL talent galore on the offensive side of the ball. So all he had to do was just come in, manage the game, and he was going to be fine. Just so happened he was actually a really good college quarterback. So I think he just needs to be in a situation with adequate to good talent and just kind of see where it is. Carolina really did nothing for him on the talent management standpoint, but at the same time, he showed no flashes as to showing everybody that he can be a capable starting quarterback in the National League. I just feel like the relationship's over at this point. They need to look into trying to trade him.
Yeah. And some would also argue with Bryce Young. Have we seen a pattern? Because with Alabama quarterbacks, Mac Jones, Bryce Young, Tua Tagovailoa, now people are going to make that argument. How are Alabama quarterbacks that have come into the NFL haven't panned out so well? But undisputed world champ, saving the best for last. What is your reaction?
I'm going to be real careful about what I'm going to say because we are on the air. It is sad for the fans of Carolina, considering one thing, and you know this to be true, BRF, because they're the same division. Considering how the last regime ended in Carolina, you did not think that it could go from bad to worse.
That's a fair point.
That's a fair point. Yes, sir.
Or worse.
Well, I mean, it went left quick. It got bad quick. Considering, like I said, let me word this correctly. Considering the circumstances that the last regime was in that ousted, Mr. Richardson out of ownership. Considering that, people thought that David Tepper was going to be a lot better for this because, he came from Pittsburgh. And anytime somebody comes from Pittsburgh, there's a little bit of football culture that comes from there, from coaching to a little bit of everywhere. Guys that come from Pittsburgh are scattered throughout the league. You see him, Jordan Porter, just to name a few. And these guys are good culture guys. You know what I'm saying? So to see that happen and to see guys, owners of a team throwing drinks on people in the stands is flat out ridiculous. That's number one. And it all flows down from the top. I would equate, look, since he's been in power, there's been several different quarterbacks. There have been several different coaches. And I'm on record for saying this. They remind me, this Carolina franchise really reminds me of the Cincinnati Bengals in the 90s. No coaching stability, no quarterback stability, first round washouts. It's just bad. Not to mention, they traded some of their best players and literally got nothing for them. They traded Christian McCaffrey for a second and a fifth. How does that happen? I want you to tell me who in that building went somewhere and did something crazy, because who got drunk and made that trade? Because I just want to know, how do you get rid of Christian McCaffrey for a second and a fifth? Then turned around. Remember, a year before Brian Burns got traded, a team offered 3 first-round picks in order to get him.
He said no.
And he said, no, Brian Burns is not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be a Panther for life. Got rid of him this past offseason. You only got, I think,
this dude is dumb.
He went
and then on top of that, it wasn't the trade itself. It was the fact that you did not have anything there. You had nothing there.
No.
And the thing is, people talk about what they should have took Stroud. Why? I want you to know why. I mean, I'm anxious to know, because the thing is this. Do you really want to see a guy with the potential and the talent of a CJ Stroud down there in Carolina getting beat down with a bad owner and no talent. So the thing is, number one, we thought that we seen some bad things with Dan Snyder on the field. And Hugh Overhouse down there in Tampa Bay. Whoo, Lord have mercy. Let me tell you, David Tepper, you right up there with him, brother, because you have disgraced yourself on many occasions, not only on the field, on the product that you put on the field, but in the media and how you conduct yourself. And it's just crazy how certain guys get franchises and they don't know. And like I said, you would have thought that he learned something from the Rooney. Shout out to the Rooney family. There's a Rooney rule for a reason. Shout out to him. You would have thought that he would have learned something while he was up there being a minority owner. But apparently you learned nothing but how to just go into somewhere and just flat out just mess it up. Because the thing is, regardless of the circumstances outside of football, I will say, let me stress that again, outside of football, the last regime was constantly in playoff contention. In fact, they was in the NFC Championship their second year in existence. So they was constantly in contention. They may have had a bad
Bowl appearances.
Yes, multiple Super Bowl appearances, had an MVP in Cam Newton, they went to the playoffs with Kerry Collins. And if you know BRF, you know about Kerry Collins and the rumors surrounding him all the time. So the thing is, they went to playoffs with him before they traded him off to
he wasn't that bad as the QB.
Well, there was some stuff off the field that was going on.
Okay.
You know, a whole lot of other things. But I digress. But the thing was, under that last regime, you had a plethora of Pro Bowl players. You had a lot of talent as far as on the field. Like I say, I do stress on the field, what they were doing was okay. But the thing is, the culture-wise was not very good, as far as work environment, things like that. That's why they were ousted. But it got bad to worse. I mean, like I said, you could put David Tepper right there, unless he redeems himself. Because remember, there was a lot of stuff about this, about how Jed York, the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, how he was conducting himself, in the front office, and how he ousted Jim Harbaugh, and how he was running the team before Jim Harbaugh got there. So we've seen a lot of owners that don't really know what they're doing. Plus, he had to take the place of his uncle, who was the previous owner of the team, which, if you know Eddie DeBartolo, Mr. DeBartolo, he was one of the best owners in the league. He was a Hall of Famer for a reason, the first owner to ever get 5 Super Bowls. So it was a lot of stuff about the 49ers before they got themselves together. But for this to happen under your watch, and the thing is, you haven't really owned the team that long. And it's already one of the worst franchises in the league.
7 years he's been owning the team now.
How many years?
7 years. He took ownership of the team back in 2018.
So 3 years after a Super Bowl appearance. 3 years after a Super Bowl appearance, you take over that team from the previous regime because of the circumstances surrounding them getting ousted. And we think because you're coming from Pittsburgh, we're going to get a Pittsburgh type of guy like the Rooney family, one of the best ownership groups in the league. But instead, you're around here throwing deep. I have never seen, the thing is, outside of going to that podium, I ain't never seen Mr. Rooney. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't see the Rooneys out front doing anything as far as, I'm talking about being visible owners, I will say.
Right.
I mean, they're the least visible owners and the most successful. That should tell you a lot about ownership, but I digress.
No, you make a very valid point, champ. Make a very valid point. I just want to read the stat. According to Stat News, in the last 10 games with Bryce Young, he has a passer rating of 65.8 with 1,562 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions in his last 10 games in his NFL career.
Oh
But
my god.
yeah, the numbers are pretty bad. But I do think Bryce Young needs a resurrection and he needs to go elsewhere. Let's continue on with the NFC South. New Orleans Saints demolishing the Dallas Cowboys. I was at work that day. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch the rest of that game until I went to the bar, the office, right across from the job. One of the managers there, diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. Her name is Kaylin. Shout out to my girl Kaylin. She was upset with the Dallas Cowboys loss, but man, the New Orleans Saints 190 yards on the ground rushing. They had two interceptions on Dak Prescott. That game kind of reminded me of the Dallas Cowboys in that playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. Just basically a whooping. And Dallas Cowboys, to me, was I surprised with the loss? No, I was not, because the Dallas Cowboys, who they are, they can't stop the run, and they can't run the football as much because you got Ezekiel Elliott in the background. They don't have any of the young running backs. Imagine if they had a Blake Corum. Imagine if they had some resemblance of a running game. And the offensive line, it's not what it once was. Ty Smith is gone now. Zach Martin, going to be in the Hall of Fame, deservedly so, but he's getting up there in age now. Travis Frederick, obviously, he had some health issues at the time, but the offensive line is still not the same anymore. Dak Prescott got his money. And to me, look, when Derek Carr threw that interception, the next play, Dak Prescott threw an interception. And I'm like, this is just typical Cowboys. And Mike McCarthy, look, I've said it before. I've said it again, man. Look, Mike McCarthy, I mean, other than Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, what is he? And as long as Jerry Jones is running the show for the Dallas Cowboys ain't going nowhere. Still have the Eagles winning the division. We'll talk about the Eagles versus Falcons in a sec, but nothing surprising with the Dallas Cowboys at all. They got their butts whipped. Shout out to the New Orleans Saints. They have been they look really good, not just offensively, but defensively. As far as running the football, Alvin Kamara looked like the Alvin Kamara of old. That was actually great for Derek Carr because that set up the play action. But this NFC South, man, I mean, not only Tampa Bay, you still gotta look at. You gotta look at New Orleans. But Grant, I'm gonna let you go first, man. What were your thoughts about the game?
I'm happy, bro. Like I could like watching that game. Listen, first off, I'm just gonna troll. Dallas, this is who you pay $60 million to throw 2 picks against us, to make Alante Taylor look like a god, to make CeeDee Lamb after all that complaining. I found some meme on TikTok of him doing a TikTok dance. I was so tempted to go on to Twitter and be like, CeeDee, we need you to get open. CeeDee Lamb out here doing this crap. Give me a break. This team, listen, if the biggest thing with this team, in my eyes, was honestly just the coordinator position. Everyone was like, get rid of Dennis Allen. Nothing's going to change. And I was like, I felt like it was from an offensive position. This is Clint Kubiak's first 2 games as our OC in this season. 15 straight drives we scored touchdowns. That's for me, that's insane. Considering where the offense was last year, like how we couldn't score at all, especially in the red zone. That was the thing that bit us in the butt multiple times. Derek Carr looks like his old self. Alvin Kamara's playing incredible. Chris Olave's playing well. The defense with Demario Davis and Cameron Jordan, the defense has always been solid. They're playing great too. After 2 weeks, I'm not gonna lie. If we're basing it off of just these 2 weeks alone, anything else before or after, they're a top 5 team in the league. Like, this offense has just been incredible. And look, I'm not gonna go on this drive and say, "Oh, we're Super Bowl contenders, and this is only week 2. Let's calm down." But
Don't pull a Mookie, please. Don't pull a Mookie.
I'm not. I understand. It's Derek Carr is playing. Derek. I saw that whole thing.
You ain't right. You are not. That's not nice. That's not nice. That is not nice. BRF, you're wrong for that, bro. You're wrong for that. You are wrong.
In the words of CM Punk, stop me when I'm telling lies.
No,
I'm just saying, man, that's not nice. But the thing is, if I can intervene for a minute till we get PSP back, I'm gonna just keep it all the way 100, man. Hey, I like what y'all doing in the first couple of games, and I'm not gonna hate, but let's keep it all the way 100. You played the Panthers the first game, and you played a Dallas Cowboy team who is weak against the run, and you know they'll give a few away on offense once they get behind. So
horrible in man coverage.
So while you know it is impressive what you guys are doing, granted y'all are a rival, I got to give credit where credit is due. You're playing the Panthers and a team that you know is weak against the run. I mean, and let's just keep it all the way 100. Alvin Kamara is still a top 10 back in this league. He just had a year last year. So when you put that out there against a Dallas Cowboy team that is weak against the run and can't come from behind, which they showed you last year, it's going to end in disaster. So while it is impressive you having all these, you getting all of this scoring done in the first couple of games, it is a Panthers team that just benched their starting quarterback, not to mention a Dallas Cowboy team that is so weak against the run, they couldn't stop the bread from running out of the stove. So what are we talking about?
Oh my God, Champ is hilarious, man. But great minds think alike as always. Shout out to my man, Gorilla. Go check him out on the Sports For You podcast with John and them. Go check them out, fellas. Sorry, y'all. I had some technical difficulties, but I'm back. But whoever wants to continue on with the Saints Cowboys conversation.
Yeah, I'll jump in since you know Grant and Champ already spoke, and you know they always gonna come with the good stuff. So I'm gonna follow them up. Okay. I got to the world out there. I got to apologize. I've kind of been on one tonight. I cracked the joke before we went on the air. I'm in a hell bus driving mood. Y'all got forgive me about this, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm gonna bring it back down a little bit. But this is what I'm gonna say. I think for me, the New Orleans Saints have always been a team that was like just more consistent play away from being truly a scary team in the NFC, because they have talent at all the necessary levels that you need to be good. Their offensive line, they have talent on the offensive line. We don't even have to discuss Alvin Kamara. We know what Alvin Kamara brings to the table. You have Chris Olave. You have Rashid Shaheed, who is starting to establish himself as one of the elite deep threats in the National Football League. They got weapons. I mean, don't even get me started about the Swiss Army knife. Don't get me started about Taysom Hill. It's like that man is 34 years old, and you can still ask him to do whatever you need him to do, and he's gonna go out and he's gonna produce. So don't even get me started on Taysom Hill. That man has ticked me off many a Saints Falcons game when it's like we can't damn stop him. Whether he's playing, I'm talking about his best game as a quarterback was against us, and you already know when he gets that ball and when he gets that ball in the Wildcat, he's a hard dude to bring down. And then with the defense, I mean, come on, man, the defensive line. You got Cam Jordan, you got Carl Granderson. You know what they bring to the table. You got the Mario Davis linebacker core. You know what he brings to the table. Come on, the secondary. I mean, bro, come on. Do we need to talk about Tyrann Mathieu? Do we need to talk about how good that boy still is? We don't need to, because that boy's still good when he's healthy. Marshawn Lattimore, one of the better corners in the league. And then you go in the draft and you add a Kool-Aid McKinstry. What are we, bro? There's talent on all levels of this team. It's just the problem is either inconsistency or just coaching like they had no idea what's going on. And I really think that Clint Kubiak is really found a good neutralizing middle ground as far as understanding how to get the best out of his team on the offensive side of the ball. And it basically boils down to Derek Carr's an awesome play action quarterback. So what we're going to do, we're going to get back to what made the Saints successful in the past, and that is use Alvin Kamara to the fullest of his abilities. Because, like Champ said, he is still a top 10 back in this league, especially when he is utilized to the fullest of the capabilities that he brings to the table. Whether it's his ability to run the ball, his patience, I think Alvin Kamara has the best jump cut in the National Football League. His jump cuts are insane. And then add to the fact he's still an elite pass catcher. That screen they threw and the way he just maneuvers and uses his blocks and basically goes 50 yards untouched for a score. I mean, very few running backs have the run after the catch ability that an Alvin Kamara brings to the. Yeah, exactly. The dude just does everything well. So I'm really enjoying how Clint Kubiak is really getting his dudes in position, like running the play action, understanding I have speed at my wide receiver core. I'm going to isolate your weak link in your secondary, and I'm going to torch you and rip you apart. In the Dallas Cowboys case, their secondaries aren't that great in press coverage. Not when you pressure them. Where they're good at is when they have a lead and they can jump routes when they know what's coming. But when you're actually mixing things up and you're throwing them off and they have to actually guess and they have to actually try to make a play outside of knowing you have to throw the ball, you can light them up. And we know their run defense is mid to awful because they are front running defense. Like I talked about this on the throwdown. Dallas and Philadelphia's defense are very similar to me. To me, they are like the Spider-Man meme. Like you have Dallas on one side and Philly on the other side, and they're pointing at each other because they're similar in how they play defense. You can run on them. You can run on them. When they have leads, they like to jump routes. But if they're not jumping routes, you can burn their secondary's burnt toast when they're not allowed to jump routes. Let's just keep it a buck. And then the pass rush. My only thing is Philly has a worse pick. Philly's pass rush is worse than Dallas, but you can only best utilize it when they have a lead. So I think New Orleans has a real chance to beat Philly this coming weekend because I think they're just going to continue to do what they've been doing as far as being able misdirection, play action. Just understanding how to isolate weak spots in defenses and doing what they need to do to attack and moving the ball down the field. But this is what I'm gonna say though. 2 weeks. Some people are saying Super Bowl contenders. Put the brakes on just a little bit. Still 15 games left. People got to understand, Derek Carr's been lights out. This is still Derek Carr. Do I think he's going to have a good season? If his offensive line holds up to par, I think Derek Carr can be that guy they paid all that money to in the offseason. I think he can be that guy because shout out to my homie Kieran. He brought it up. When Derek Carr had an offensive line, he was an MVP candidate. New Orleans has a good offensive line in front of him that can block, that can protect. I want to see how he utilizes it with the play action and just being able to stand and maneuver in the pocket. I think he's capable of really breaking out again and having a good year. I think New Orleans is going to beat Philly, but I also think there are still weaknesses that New Orleans has that you can attack. They just haven't played good. They just haven't played teams yet that are good enough to expose them. Philly on offense is good enough to expose it. The only thing is, if they're going to be without A.J. Brown, it makes it easier for New Orleans to focus on Devontae Smith. That's why I think New Orleans is going to beat them. But I do think as long as they can keep this level of consistency up, they are a scary team, and they are a team no one's going to want to face in the NFC. If you're having to deal with that style of offense on a weekly basis, no one's going to want to face them, especially having to go to New Orleans, which is still one of the best home field advantages in the league, especially when they're winning and they're playing good football. New Orleans is a scary place to travel to go play. So I got to give shout outs to the Saints, man. They're doing well, but we just let's see how it goes. Playing better competition, because I guess we still consider Dallas a good team. I think they're average to okay at best, but we'll just see where it goes. But I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. 91 points in 2 games. I mean, good. I mean, man. I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, that's just flawless execution at its finest.
I mean, like I said earlier, again, this is not, like I said, I give Saints all the credit in the world because you still got to go out there and execute. Ain't nobody gonna just walk out there and hand it to you. But at the same time, I have to say this. I will go back to this argument. It's still the Panthers who don't have any good defensive players, and Derek Brown is out on injured reserve. He's their best defensive player at this point. And it's the Cowboys, who is weak against the run, and you have a top 10 back in Alvin Kamara, who may have his best season yet at this point in time. Don't be surprised if Alvin Kamara rushes for over 1,700 yards this year. Don't be surprised. But if you have weak defenses and weak run defenses like that, then don't be surprised. I mean, Dallas is Dallas. I mean, they cannot stop the run. They can't play from behind. They can't do a lot of basic fundamental things in order to close out games. So guess what? You're playing against those two, and hey, let's see what you do when you face Philadelphia when they come to you, because they played a hell of a game against my Atlanta Falcons. They played one hell of a game, and guess what? The defense was clicking, offense was clicking. The only thing they couldn't do. And guess what? The only thing that they can do, they just couldn't close out the game, fortunately for us. But the thing is, let's see how you do it when you are playing somebody who can at least play decent defense, not somebody who you could just go up and down the field and matriculate the ball down the field, in the great words of the late, great Hank Stram, and they not do anything about it. Let's see what you do then. Now, granted, you got to play who shows up, but let's see what happens when you play equal competition. Let's see what happens when you have to leave the friendly confines of your stadium, and then you got to come to the dome. Let's see what happens when you're facing Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons. Let's see what happens when that happens before we start talking about, Derek Carr in any MVP conversation, or the Saints in any type of Super Bowl or playoff conversation. Let's see what you do when you play in real defenses rather than guys who can't stop anything. That's what I will honestly say about the Saints. Give them their props. They're the division rival. I think they are mild. I think Dib and Baker Mayfield, they are playing a lot better than we thought they would the first couple of games thus far, because I thought that Dennis Allen, I didn't have no faith in Dennis Allen. I think that was the biggest question mark behind the Saints anyway. The players were there. Alvin Kamara's there. Derek Carr, he's a serviceable quarterback. He's there. Chris Olave is there. The great Cam Jordan is there. The other defensive lineman, the defensive backfield, all that is there. But what is Dennis Allen going to do? And I think that was the biggest question mark coming into the season, is how is he going to fare? Because remember, they was calling for his job last year because of some of the games they just gave away. Because if you really quiet as it's kept, they should have been in the playoffs last year. They let 2 or 3 games get away. But that was the biggest question this year, because they had a lot of other pieces in place, not to mention a lot of injuries on that team as well. But what says you, Grant? We can't hear you, bro.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
This mixer's busted. But like I was saying, I completely agree with you. Like, look, I don't want to put on this hype train of like we're the Super Bowl contenders or anything like that. But starting 2-0, I mean, and being like out of the 7 teams that are still left to be undefeated, I consider that a W in my book. We got Philly in the Superdome next week, and let's be honest, if our crowd shows up and they get loud, it's probably one of the toughest places to play in the league. I think it's going to be a very interesting game to see how we do against an actual dangerous defense. Because I agree with you, the Panthers defense, like I said before, god awful. Then same thing with the Cowboys. They couldn't really stop a lot, and it didn't look like they were struggling on the defensive side. So I completely agree. But I think the biggest surprise for me this year is how much of a change it took. Because all it took was just getting Carmichael out and putting Kubiak in, and it's basically rechanged the whole offense. Because again, like I was saying before, everyone in the Saints fan base during the preseason, which was crazy to me. They all wanted Carr to not start this season. They wanted Rattler to start over him. And I was like, where is this coming from? We have to at least see what happens. 2-0 to start the season. Derek Carr is playing solid. Team's looking good. I think I'm not going to go on this hype train of, Super Bowl, because it's only week 3. I'm letting it play out bit by bit. The thing that I think that makes it more exciting for me, because I just think, from what I've seen before, offense is like I feel like I'm repeating myself this point. Offense is playing better. We're actually seeing what they can do. The O-line, shout out to Fuaga, is that guy when he drafted him in New Orleans, I knew that dude was going to be a dangerous man. And he's had a very, very solid role on the offense this season. And I think in general, when we look at the Saints, I think the South is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, because Falcons are 2-0, Bucks are 2-0. Those, if they keep winning, those in-game interdivision rivals are going to be very interesting to see, even though I feel like it's going to kind of go either here or there. But the whole division looks a lot more interesting if we cut Carolina out of the picture, just to see what those 3 teams could do. But as for the Saints, I don't think there's a better way you could have started off, because I think a lot of people didn't think we stood a chance against Dallas. And the fact that we went in there and stomped them out the way we did kind of shows us that we're actually here not to play. But we still, if you look at our schedule, again, we've got a lot of tough teams to play. So we don't have, this schedule of, bums, because this is who we have, right? So we got the Eagles at home. Then we travel to the ATL to take on your Falcons. We come home. Then we go to Arrowhead to go play Kansas City. We play Tampa Bay at home. We play Tampa Bay at home. Denver at home. We go to LA to play the Chargers. We play the Panthers in Carolina. We got the Falcons at home, the Browns at home, the Rams at home. We then have the Giants in New York. Then we come back home. We got the Commanders. We got the Packers at Lambeau. Then we have the Raiders at New Orleans, and then we close out the season with the Bucks in Tampa Bay. So the schedule's still pretty tough. And it's because I like looking at it now. I know we're probably going to lose to the Chargers because it's Patrick Mahomes, bro. Like, what do you expect? And I feel like, look, if we can play consistent football and if everyone's healthy, I think we can have a shot at winning the division. And I don't want to go in this long, crazy rant about, we'll be the playoffs and all this stuff, but I think it looks so much more better starting off the way we did. Even if we go 5-11, at least we could say we started off the season strong. But now we got to finish. We can't start here now and automatically crash out. Let's not be like Notre Dame. We have to play consistent every single week. And if we do that, we might have a chance to get into the division race. But right now, I'm on the level of, staying positive, looking at it from the upside. We beat Dallas in AT&T and had Jerry Jones more pissed off than I've ever seen, and he had to probably take more Adderall than I could possibly imagine. But it makes it better for everybody that we got that win. So that's all I gotta say.
He didn't go. He didn't go there with the Jerry Jones and the Adderall though. God damn.
But while we getting PSP back.
Yeah, sorry,
back
fellas.
with
Can
it?
y'all hear me?
Yes,
I
sir, we
can hear you.
can.
Oh, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, fellas. Technical difficulties. We'll see if I can try to address them in just a quick second, folks. But folks, let's talk about the Monday Night Football game between the Atlanta Falcons and Philadelphia Eagles. Falcons won that one, but Champ, I'm gonna let you go first. What were your thoughts?
FILA.
Mm-hmm.
Forever. I love Atlanta because man, that was a thriller right there, man. And you know what, man? Everybody thought we was gonna lose, man. Everybody was like, the Philadelphia Eagles are just gonna run through y'all. Nope. And look, I think the biggest thing everybody talks about Kirk Cousins on that last drive, that defense, man. That defense kept us in it the entire game long. Jesse Bates is a defensive player of the year candidate thus far. 12 tackles and an interception and a tackle for loss. And I think he had a sack during that game. You just can't do it much better than that. And with a lot of teams, and Terry Funk knew, shout out to BRF because he put me on Terry because I didn't have a lot of faith in Terry. Shout out to BRF because I thought he was just another GM that was just going to come in here. I thought they should have stuck with Thomas Dimitroff, and BRF kind of convinced me otherwise. But I will say this: Terry Funk knew where the league was going, and I think he did a darn good thing by getting Justin Simmons because the two safeties high with Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates, it's hard to throw those deep passes on. Very hard. Not to mention with AJ Terrell monitoring on the other side of that cornerback position. It's amazing what they're doing right now, man. That defense was able to put pressure on Jalen Hurts when he didn't get outside of the pocket. It was very, very, very good, man. Not to mention, man, we got to see one thing that we wanted to see the most. We got to see Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier run that ball. And we got to see the full force of what they can do. Not to mention, man, I'm so happy that we got onto the subject of running the ball. It looks like some of these running backs, the way the passing game is going this year, they're about to start making a campaign to get paid again. Because if you look at it, a lot of these teams, even including us, by the way, are winning because of that running game. They're not winning because of the passing game. Because the thing is, the last couple of weeks, at least 6 different teams have had over 200 yards rushing. So these running backs are about to start making their money again, and I'm happy for them. Especially, since the 2-man high is very much in demand at this point. But the Falcons did a darn good job, man, on the defensive side of the ball. Kurt Cobain's finally unleashed him. Zach Robinson finally unleashed him. And you saw what happened. And you saw the results. Aired that ball out like a ceiling fan on that last drive, man. So, man, I'm happy my Atlanta Falcons won. Forever, I love Atlanta. And look, Pat Mahomes is coming to town. If you thought facing Jalen Hurts was hard, wait till you face these guys. But it's going to be an interesting matchup with Jesse Bates in that defense versus that Kansas City offense. That's going to be a better matchup than people think it is. And if we win that game, I'm finna act the fool. Just know that. Just know I'm finna start throwing some narratives out here in a minute. We don't let us beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the defending Super Bowl champs. Oh, I'm finna throw out some narratives, man. But I gotta say, man, congratulations to Atlanta, man. You proved that you don't just go out and give the game away again. And Coach Raheem Morris, hell of a way to hold your team together, man.
I'm gonna I'm gonna reveal a stat that I saw, and I can't believe I'm about to let this out my mouth about the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons, after 2 games, are second in the National Football League in pressure rate. When the hell have you ever heard that? They are second in the league in pass rush pressure rate. Like, that's a testament to Matt Judon. That's a testament to Grady Jarrett. That's a testament to David Onyemata. We saw Taquan Graham back out on the field this week. I mean, I'm loving that we're getting our defensive line depth back to where they can rotate, keep guys fresh, and still be able to maintain a good pass rush. Because I said it in the offseason, Matt Judon was going to open up so many lanes for this Atlanta Falcons defensive line to rush the passer better. And so far they've done that. It's not resulting in sacks, but they're second in the league in pressure rate. And honestly, for me, I think pressure rate is a bigger thermometer, a bigger gauge as far as what your pass rush is doing. Because if you're pressuring the quarterback, even if you're not getting sacks, you're speeding up his clock, you're throwing off the rhythm of the offense, you are making him make throws he does not want to make, whether it's too early or too late. And the Falcons have been doing an excellent job at pressure rate so far. Shout out to Kirk Cousins, the homie. Come on, man. I never thought I was going to let this nickname come out my mouth, but we got to shout out Kirko Chains, man. We got to shout him out. That's Kirk. That's big. That's big drip Kirko Chains, man. We got to shout him out because that drive in the 4th quarter is the most comfortable I've seen him all year. It was almost like, and shout out to Zach Robinson. I said for them to win, he needed to call a much better football game, and he did that against Philly. He called a much better game. I don't think nobody had to remind him, but I think he had to remind himself. He has arguably one of the top 5 running back duos in the National Football League, and Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, and he got down to the nitty gritty and did what he needed to do, and that's 159 yards in the rushing game. Bijan got 96 on 14 carries, y'all. 96 on 14. That's insane. That's efficiency on another level. To do that on 14 carries, and Tyler Algier being the bowling ball that he is, I mean, it's like you let Bijan set him up with the speed, you get him tired. Tyler Algier come in, he bring the power game, and you beat him down. I think where the Atlanta Falcons still need to get better is the red zone. They got to the red zone a good bit against Philly, but they weren't converting. You're going to have to do that against Patrick Mahomes. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you get to the red zone and you're getting field goals instead of touchdowns, your defense got to be on their P's and Q's, making sure he's getting field goals, because Patrick Mahomes, he's starting to enter that Tom Brady tier where it's like, A, you can't give him enough time late in the game, and B, you can't not be taking advantage of opportunities to score. Because if you're not scoring field goals and he's scoring touchdowns, ultimately they add up. Like I said, Zach Robinson called a much better game Monday night, utilizing his talent. Darnell Mooney had his breakout game as a Falcon. Shout out to Drake London. I also said for them to be successful, he needs to touch the ball more, 6 for 54 and that game-winning touchdown. I think for them going against Kansas City, oh boy, this has got to be the Kyle Pitts show. This has got to be the Kyle Pitts show, because we kind of saw in that Philly game where the matchups was. It was out on the boundaries, because we know Philly can run between them hash marks. We know Philly can run. I mean, regardless of what people think about Nakobe Dean or the linebackers, Philly can run, and it's hard to run away from Philly. It's hard. But they attacked them out on them boundaries, and they did an awesome job. It's not going to be like that against Kansas City. Kansas City got corners. Kansas City got cornerbacks. But where I think you can get Kansas City is in the middle of the field. I think Kansas City is going to have to be the Kyle Pitts show as far as expanding their offense, showing new wrinkles. I mean, still doing this around the running game, but more play action to Kyle Pitts. I think we need to see that against KC to really have a chance to really be able to put points on the board, because I feel like KC can be attacked with the tight end. I think we've seen that early in the season so far. And you're about to go against Kyle Pitts, who is still one of the best talents at the tight end position. He just needs to be utilized. If there's ever a game for him to break out, that he needs to is Kansas City. This is a good tight end. This is a good match. This is a good defensive matchup as far as the tight end position, because Kansas City looks to me so far, they're not the greatest against the tight end. So I'm kind of interested in that matchup. But going quick back to the Philly game. What made me happy, and I'll say it again. It's seeing that pass rush, it's seeing that defensive line operate. Like I said, even if it's not sacks, it's Matt Judon creating pressures, it's Grady Jarrett creating pressures, it's David Onyemata creating pressures, it's Big Zoe creating pressures. It's the depth of that defensive line, and I am so happy that we're seeing it maybe starting to come to fruition, being able to rotate these guys and keeping them fresh to maintain the ability to pass rush. And I am enjoying it so far. But Kansas City is a different beast. Kansas City is a different animal. They have to come with their A game. And we'll kind of see where it goes. On the Philly side of it, they did well. They executed. Jalen Hurts, he didn't have the greatest game passing the ball, but he did excellent running the ball against us. And Saquon Barkley, okay, yeah, say what you want about that drop pass, but he got 90 plus himself on 22 carries. He did very well against us as well. So they're still with like I said, if going back to Philly, their main thing was just, they didn't make the plays they needed to make late in the game when it counted, and it came back to bit them. I understand why Nick Sirianni made that call on third down. I completely understand why they made that call. Saquon, I feel like if Saquon catches that ball, he turns it up, and I don't think the Falcons get the tackle on him. He scores, and the game's over. So it's basically, you make that catch, you're the hero. You don't make that catch, you're the GOAT. It's kind of one of those, it's kind of like one of those 50-50 calls. So I personally, I've seen people having a problem with the play call. I don't have a problem with the play call, because he kind of understood that Atlanta offense was kind of like a sleeping giant, and unfortunately, Philadelphia unfortunately gave him kind of that bean, and everything just kind of grew from there. And you saw on that last drive, I do edit Champ's video, and I kind of put it out there on the video. What Kirk Cousins did on that last drive is what you give a quarterback like him $180 million for, to come in and execute and win the game when you needed to. So hopefully, a lot of the Falcons fans down here can kind of get off his back and let him do his thing. He looked comfortable. He looked comfortable. His arm strength still looked really good. His footwork was actually pretty decent in that game against Philly. So I just kind of want to see him go and grow in his offense week to week and just see where it goes. But shout out to him. That's a big win. That's probably one of the biggest wins of the season so far for the Atlanta Falcons. After that performance against Pittsburgh, to come back and beat Philly in Philly, you take those and you use that momentum and you build. So now you got Kansas City. So I'm interested to see what they do. But hey, can they pull an upset? I personally think they can. But that game's going to be fun.
Not to mention the fact that Kirk Cousins doesn't have the greatest Monday Night Football record in the world. And on top of that, with Kansas City, Isaiah Pacheco won't go. So Kareem Hunt is now back on with the Kansas City Chiefs roster. But it's going to be an interesting game. I actually have Atlanta winning that one because I think Kirk Cousins is actually going to put on a good show. And if you look at Kansas City's offense, Grant, what are your thoughts about the Monday Night Football game?
Look, this game was hard for me to have a side to root for, because it's basically like choosing your ex for your side piece. Which one is? None of them are good. So you gotta pick one that doesn't make you feel bad. But I'm gonna be honest, this is the first time in my life I ever wanted Atlanta to win a football game, because seeing the reactions from all those fans walking out. Sir, what did you think about the game? We got to fire Sirianni. This team is bullcrap. Man, what did you think of the game? See, every single year, this is why we went 8-4 season before. We're just garbage. Man, you went 10. You know what I meant, goddamn. Oh my God. Look, first big thing is Big Kirko finally broke the curse of that primetime curse. The worst player in primetime managed to get all the way down the field and win the game. That play it showed me a lot, because looking at the game from last week, where Atlanta literally consistently could not get the ball going, and that defense held up pretty well, but let Pittsburgh score field goals. His defense played pretty solid. And I'm just scrolling through the stats. Kirk Cousins, 20 for 29, 241 yards with 2 TDs. Bijan had 14 carries for 97 yards. Darnell Mooney had 3 catches for 88 yards and a TD. They played pretty consistent in this game. And what shows me more about Atlanta is that I think this team is finally just starting to get into a rhythm. And I know there's a lot of things you could say, but if you want to talk about statement wins, going into Philadelphia and beating the Eagles in their home opener is let's be honest, no one gave this team a chance. Nobody. After last week, everyone thought it was lights out. And the biggest thing that it took away from me from Atlanta's side, maybe Kirko can be that guy. Everyone had the question marks about the contract and how much y'all were paying him to come into this system and see what it will work. Let's be honest, and Chip, I know you feel this 100%. Anyone's better than Desmond Ridder at this point. So look at it from that side. I think Kirk Cousins is going to come into his own. I think Atlanta is starting to build up this idea of what they want their team to be, and it's a big win. Now let's get over to the other side. Philadelphia, why would you throw the ball with the last? Just run the ball. These are the things I don't get with the Sirianni play calling. It's 1:46 remaining, 3rd and 3, and you literally have the ball on the 10-yard line. All you got to do is try to get 3 yards, and the game's over. But you decide to throw it? The logic, in my mind, I went back and watched the film for this game. There's no reason why I feel like they should have done that. Second of all, why are you expecting that defense, who's already been dead tired and played a ton of snaps that game, to hold off Atlanta coming all the way down the field? Because their second, let's be honest, Eagles secondary, especially on that last drive, got torched. Especially with how they were able to move the ball. And I know a lot of people were wanting Sirianni's head on a platter after last season for how bad the team fell out. Looking at the way this game started, bro, this is not good. It's not good. And look, I understand, yes, it is week 2. The Eagles can bounce back. The other big thing for me is, bro, Jalen Hurts, man. And I'm not blaming it on Jalen Hurts because I think he had a solid game too. But, man, I just feel like there's so many people that are going to get onto him for this, especially with what happened in this game. People are blaming Saquon for the catch. I wouldn't. I've honestly thought he was going to catch that the way he threw the ball. It just makes it more and more confusing. And going back to Sirianni, my biggest concern with the Eagles is that with the fan base, especially with the team, is going to get fed up to a certain point where they're just going to have enough of it, and then Sirianni's going to be gone. And I know it's too early to go ahead and call that premonition, and I think you guys have kind of really touched on the main points. But they got to wake up and start playing. If you lose to the Saints, it starts building distrust. And if there's one group of fans that you do not want to build up a huge level of distrust with, it's Philadelphia Eagles fans. Because those people will turn on you faster. They will turn on you.
Philadelphia fans.
Like I was saying earlier,
all the fans, they had people who were all over my social media feed. They had people outside of the game, and they were all like, this is ridiculous. Nothing's changed. And look, take the win as it is. You beat the Packers in Brazil, great. But Jordan Love got hurt right at the end. That dealt a blow. You still had the game on lock. He played solid. But in these games where you have the game on lock, just finish it out. Don't try to do these ridiculous last-minute decisions, because that's essentially what I think cost them this game. Just run the ball, follow the coordinates. And when I was thinking about this, college football fans will get this. Georgia Tech played Miami. Miami has the ball. All they got to do is just take the knee and the game's over. But they decide to go for it and they give Georgia Tech the ball. They get down the field to score because of a stupid error that you shouldn't make. And I'm not blaming that on the main fault too, because that's a simple piece of it. But Philadelphia has to start playing better consistently, especially on the defensive side, because that defense was getting killed, especially on those third down plays and those second down plays, especially when they were getting hit with the rush, because even though Bijan got only 97 yards, you could see that he was tearing that secondary alive. And I'm worried that if Philly doesn't wake up and start playing consistently on that side of the ball, it's going to bite them when they got tougher opponents later down the line. Go ahead, BRF. That's all I got to say.
Ooh. And you know what? For all you Atlanta Falcons fans who get on the front office, we should have drafted Jalen Carter. Chris Lindstrom shut each and every one of you up. Chris Lindstrom ate that boy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Chris Lindstrom had to remind you why he's a top 5 guard in this league. And the fact that he did it against Jalen Carter, who was basically every Atlanta Falcons fan's wet dream 2 years ago, and the fact that he ate him alive, I'm sorry, that holds a special place in my heart. Because don't get me wrong, I love Jalen Carter at the University of Georgia. Homeboy was the best defensive player in the country at the University of Georgia. Don't get me wrong. But when everybody's like, Jalen Carter is right there, why would we draft Bijan? Did you see what Bijan did against the Philadelphia Eagles? Have you seen what Bijan done his first year and 2 games in this league so far? Bijan Robinson already has the hype of a top 10 offensive player in the National Football League, and he's living up to those expectations. This is why you draft a guy like him. And the fact that they were still – the only thing I hate with the Falcons this year so far is their defensive rookies this year haven't seen the field yet. That's the only thing I hate. It's the only thing I'm not liking so far. But I just had to get that out there because everybody that gives them crap about Jalen Carter, Chris Lindstrom showed you why we will be okay. Chris Lindstrom ate that boy for lunch, and I was all here for it. I was all here for it. They were showing like some film, some highlights, and it's not even double team blocks. Chris Lindstrom was 1v1 and him, and making it look easy. And I'm as a fan who rides with them no matter who they pick, because ultimately at the end of the day, I want to see them win and succeed and get to where they want to be. I'm sorry, I took a little extra pride in that because y'all got to quit with this whole Jalen Carter thing, man. Yeah, I get it. He was good, but look at what he's done with the Philadelphia Eagles. Him and Jordan Davis are supposed to make this Philadelphia Eagles defense the best run defense in the league. They're not a good run defensive team with these boys. So that, I'm sorry. I got to celebrate a little bit on that one. Seeing the homie Chris Lindstrom eat up Jalen Carter like that for 4 quarters, I'm sorry. I got to take a little extra pride in that.
You got something to say, champ?
Piggybacking one quick thing, piggybacking on what Grant said, there's 2 places in this world that you can get fired real quick. University of Auburn and Philadelphia.
Hugh Freeze about to get –
those are the 2 quickest places where you can get fired.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and if you don't believe that, just ask Gene Chizik and just ask Coach Bill Peterson.
Oh,
Doug Peterson. They won championship there, and they still got
won championship there.
And those are the quickest.
Yeah, one best season, and they all wanted him gone.
They won championships there, and they still got that axe.
Less than 2 years later, they were gone.
Less than 2 years, he had a bad season. Get him out.
They got the championship, they was gone.
All right, fellas, let's get into some college football. we got some big games for college football this weekend. Michigan, Oklahoma. USC is at Michigan, and Tennessee is at Oklahoma. Let's talk about USC versus Michigan, man. I got USC winning this one because now the quarterback, he's going to be taking over. And look, Lincoln Riley, I've said it before. He does not prioritize defense. I stand by that. But I just don't trust Michigan's offense to go up against USC. Doesn't matter if it's Lincoln Riley's defense or not. I got USC winning this one. Now, the Tennessee-Oklahoma game, Tennessee is a 6.5-point favorite to win that one. College game day will be there. I have concerns about Oklahoma's offense. They didn't look too well against Houston. I love Brett Venables as far as what he can do defensively. Nico, the quarterback from Tennessee, did struggle against NC. Yeah, he did struggle.
I know it's hard to pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm starting to learn.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. But he did struggle in that game against NC State, though. But to me, I think Tennessee should win this one. I got Tennessee probably 27-13. I think Tennessee should win this one 27-13. And I think USC should win this one, I think 30-14. Because I don't trust Michigan's offense. And I don't trust Oklahoma's offense. And I think you're going to ask an awful lot from each of the defenses, from Michigan and Oklahoma, to come and win that game. And I just think they will struggle. But Grant, who do you have winning those games? Oh, we can't hear you, Grant.
Sorry, I got a mixer that I have connected to this, and I press mute, and I forget sometimes because you usually click it on here. It's complicated. But looking at this game, in my perspective, when we were last on the podcast, by the way, for those who don't know why I was here, I turned 24 on Friday. I'm old. My body is breaking down. You know, I'm going to start having to take arthritis pills and all that, get me started. But when I look at this game, look, Champ, I got to issue you an apology because you were right about Michigan. I said, give me a second, boys.
Okay.
That was fun. Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead, Champ. Go ahead.
Number one, man, I don't think Michigan is going to do that good right now because a lot of those star players have graduated. And I think that, look, the new coach is a very, very good coach. But he don't have the same players that he did last year. This is not the same team. And I can honestly say Lincoln Riley doesn't prioritize defense, but it's looking a little bit better. It's not going to be all-world defense. We're not going to see like the 46-85 Bears on here, but it's looking a lot better. But, hey, if he wins this game, I think it'll be good. But this is not the statement game that everybody's going to be trying to make it out to be. I really don't think, even if he wins, this is not going to be the statement game. That was a statement. I don't really think it is. The statement is going to be when and if they play Ohio State this year. I got to check the schedule real quick. But that will be the true testament to see what you're made of. Because my only problem with Lincoln was this. You left Oklahoma because you didn't want to go to the SEC. Now you're in an even tougher division. I mean, an even tougher conference. Now you're in an even tougher conference. It's going to be hard for you to get out of this conference, unscathed. If you can get out of there scathed at all. But I would take Michigan on that. For the Oklahoma game, shout out to my boy Big Cal, man. If you're watching this, man. Hey, shout out to you. See you tomorrow. When we head to Buffaloes, watch that big game tomorrow. I am taking the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm taking the Sooners. Ain't no way I'm chilling for Tennessee. I'm not cheering for Tennessee. I am not cheering for Tennessee. There's no way I'm going to cheer for Tennessee.
That's
No
kind
way
of like
in the
you
world.
cheering for the New Orleans Saints.
Yes, that it's not going to happen. In the great words of Anita Baker, there's no way in the world. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I know this might be a hot take, but I'm still take Oklahoma. You know, like I said, I'm never going to cheer for Tennessee. You know, Tennessee, boo.
BRF.
I mean, just because we might not like Tennessee, don't mean we don't have to. That don't mean game can't recognize game in this situation. I mean, I'm just saying, like I mean, right? I mean, I gotta go Tennessee too. I mean, I like. I like the way the offense is kind of operating right now. I kind of dig what I'm seeing, and I mean, just I don't know. I just feel like, you know, I don't know. I just don't see Oklahoma. I just don't see Oklahoma being able to stop them for 4 quarters. I mean, I got Tennessee to beat Oklahoma, and yeah, and hey Grant, I'm with you. I gotta apologize. To Champ too, because boy, this is definitely not going to be a statement win if USC beats Michigan, especially after the way Texas beat Michigan. This is definitely not going to be a statement win. So I got SC too, because ultimately at the end of the day it's Lincoln Riley and it's his offense, and Michigan is not going to be able to just run up and down the field with him. So I got Tennessee beating Oklahoma. I got USC beating Michigan.
If you told me I had the roster from last year, I would have a much better chance, but certainly I don't. But Grant, go ahead, man.
Look, so going into these games, first off of Michigan and USC, the biggest thing of this is Sherrell Moore's putting Alex Orji in for this game, but Orji's going to have a lot of trouble, especially with USC, because this is the same team who they're coming off of a bye after they basically mitigated LSU's run game and then shut out Utah State. And I feel like Miller Moss this is his first road start, so that gives him a tougher advantage. The biggest thing looking at this game, USC, when we look at their defense last year, they ranked 116th nationally, and they were about 8-5 last season. So then Riley gets rid of Alex Gridge, and he brings in Deanton Lynn, who was at UCLA. The biggest thing I think looking at this game, especially, Michigan has to be able to get the ball out, but that's where I think this is going to cost them. I think the Trojans look as a more competent team defensively right now, and I know it's only after 2 games. They're going to load up against the run, which I think is going to be the biggest thing to stop Michigan, and they have enough offensive firepower to exploit those soft spots in that defense. Because let's be honest, Champ, you said it best, and this is the older generation wisdom, which reminds us all, respect your elders. You have to understand, this isn't the same Michigan team. Texas proved that. All these Michigan fans who were saying all this stuff, they got dog walked. And I think this is going to be the same result. I don't think this is the same Michigan team. I don't think Alex Orji is going to be able to do anything against this USC defense. And if USC stops the run, they're going to win this game by like 15. And that's who I think's winning, USC. Now, as for Tennessee and Oklahoma, PSP, biggest thing for me with this game, this is Josh Heupel is headed back to Norman because he was their offensive coordinator 10 years ago. That's big for him. And then Heupel and Venables, they go way back. So that makes this is going to be a very interesting game. The biggest concern I have about this is being an away game for Tennessee. I love Nico Lamiavea. This kid in his first 2 games was incredible. Against Kent State, this kid was throwing bombs down the field. And it's incredible because the kid's got an arm. Their rushing game is unbelievable. They have a very strong stance. I think this game is going to be very hostile because if there's one thing I know about Oklahoma, they will get hostile if necessary.
Oh, yeah, Norman.
But this seems Saturday like night. A perfect matchup for what I see from these 2 teams because Oklahoma's offensive line hasn't been great. Especially with Houston last week, it looked like they were struggling. The Vols have one of the best defensive lines in the country. Oklahoma struggled to get these points on the board. And Tennessee, believe it or not, you know how many times Tennessee has punted this season?
How many?
Twice. That's it. Twice. That's the only 2 times they've punted. And I think both defenses are really good. And this is going to be a slugfest, I think. But I think Tennessee's offense is going to walk out of Norman with the win because I think it's still going to be a slugfest. I got Tennessee winning this one, and I think it's going to be like 31-30. It's going to go down to the wire. It's going to be like a close game for both sides. And I think this will just be – it's going to be a very exciting game for both road openers in the SEC.
My concern is with Jackson Arnold, how he's going to play well in that game. And with Brett Venables, what are you going to do? Because Nico, I mean, yeah, we saw that game against Kent State. He was terrific in Kent State. I just think that if you can give me a good enough offense and with Brett Venables with the defense, I think I'll just be fine. But I feel like I'm asking a hell of a lot in order for Oklahoma to win this one. USC should win this one, but at the same time, to Champ's point, even though they've proved a little bit defensively, this is this Michigan team. If they were the Michigan team last year or the year before, I would probably pick Michigan. Again, because those are both of my teams. I love both of those teams. But unfortunately, tomorrow they're going to hang with an L. All right, folks, let's talk about NFL. Let's talk about our Week 3 NFL picks. Texans at the Vikings. Who wins?
The Texans.
And the Texans are 2-point favorites.
Texans.
Yeah, you got to go. It's one thing for Minnesota to beat the New York Giants and San Francisco without a healthy Christian McCaffrey, even though Jordan Mason did ball out. Houston's a different ball game offensively. They force you to have to meet them where they want you to meet them. I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be able to hang with C.J. Stroud. I got Houston.
Grant?
I actually got that as my upset of the week. I got Minnesota beating them. Look, Sam Darnold going into his first 2 games this season, I think has been really shocking to say the least. And seeing what happened with San Francisco, I don't know if this is going to be a blowout. I see this going down to the wire, and I can see a world where Minnesota can scrape this away with a field goal. I think Houston's offense played pretty solid against Chicago, but maybe Minnesota's got something in them. So I'm going to put the upset up for Minnesota.
I'm going to go with Minnesota too, because I got to be honest with you, the Houston's offense, I thought collectively Houston, even though they struggle with penalties, man. In that game against Chicago, boy, they struggle with a bunch of penalties in that game, and I think they're going to commit penalties, and that's going to cost them. And Sam Darnold, like I mentioned before, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, they were in Carolina, struggled. Now they're elsewhere. Man, Sam Darnold, to your point, Champ, this is his golden opportunity for him to have a resurrection year. And it tells you a lot about coaching. Just like when Baker Mayfield had Sean McVay with the Los Angeles Rams. Mm-hmm. Say what you want about Kyle Shanahan in terms of clock management and situational stuff, but boy, does he know how to work with quarterbacks, and he's one of the best play callers in the NFL. So we can't take that away. And I think what Sam Darnold is doing, I mean, it's good, man. Unfortunately, and by the way, Joe Mixon is listed as doubtful in that game. Cam Akers is going to have to step in. So, but I got the Vikings as an upset.
Hold on, let me say something real quick before we move on to the next pick. A luxury. Joe Mixon is doubtful, and Cam Akers is your backup. That's a luxury, man. People forget how freaking good Cam Akers was before the injury. Cam Akers was about to blow up before the injury. So I'm just saying.
I'm concerned. That's why I'm hesitant because of the injuries. If Cam Akers was healthy, which he is, but again, I do think that the Texans, they're going to put up some points, but I think the Vikings, who knows? They're going to actually shock some people. Next game, Packers at Titans. Titans are a 3-point favorite. Who wins?
I got Packers winning this. Look, Malik Willis had a solid game last week. I think the Packers still, Josh Jacobs has played solid on that offense. Everyone's biggest concern is without Jordan Love, will the Packers be doing well? I think Malik Willis is doing a good job with the team. And I think getting that win really boosted up what I think the Packers need. I think they're going to play Tennessee. I don't know if that defense is going to be able to stop them if they could get that pass game going. I got Packers winning this by 2.
And Malik Willis is going back to Tennessee. So,
that's
a statement game for him. BRF.
Seeing what I saw from the Packers this Sunday is why I'm going to pick them to beat Tennessee, because ultimately the coaches are just going to simplify it. Malik Willis, you ain't got to go out and do nothing spectacular. Just hand the ball to Josh Jacobs. If we need you to go to Jaden Reed or Dontavian Wicks or Christian Watson, do that every so often when we need you to. And let that defense get after Will Levis, who looks pretty shook this season so far. So I got the Green Bay Packers winning this one.
Gotten so shook, he's even changed his own phone number. He even admitted that. So, champ.
They're way too shook for comfort. Shook ones. But, hey, I was about to take the mayonnaise, man, until you told me that. Now I got to go with the Packers. But, yeah, now I got to go with the Packers, That's sad. That's sad.
I think Packers should win this one as long as Malik Willis manages the game. And not only with Josh Jacobs running the football, people forgotten Malik Willis can run the football too. So if they can incorporate him with some run plays for him, I think the Packers should win this one. Eagles at Saints. Grant, I'm going to let you go first. The Saints are 2.5-point favorites.
I'm picking New Orleans. Like, you asking me this is like asking me if barbecue sauce goes good with ribs. Like what type of question is that? Like I'm going with the Saints. Look, we're in New Orleans. We're 2-0. The delusional fan base is always going to come out in New Orleans. The crowd's going to be loud. You're looking at that game. The Saints are winning. Saints are winning by 50. Whatever. Who dat? Let's go, baby.
BRF.
Sounding like a typical Saints fan. Give them an inch.
You're damn right.
You give them a damn inch. They take a whole mile, boy. I tell you, God do it. But for real, I'm gonna keep it a buck though. If AJ Brown, look, the Eagles. Okay, let's just keep it a buck, and let's talk about that elephant in the room. We didn't even discuss it with the Eagles. They miss AJ Brown. They miss AJ Brown. They miss AJ Brown because as good as Devontae Smith is, that game against Atlanta showed me he's not at the number one level tier receiver just yet. A lot of his success is still predicated on having AJ Brown on the other side, taking that coverage away so he can get the weaker matchup, so he can destroy whoever's guarding him as the number 2. And if AJ Brown was in this game, I would definitely consider the Eagles, because let me tell you something. The Saints secondary can be burnt toast at times. And AJ Brown is a prime candidate to light you up. However, with no AJ Brown, all they're gonna do is they're gonna rotate the coverage to Devontae Smith. I mean, Dallas Goedert has been like non-existent so far this year. And don't get me wrong, Saquon's going to get his. I still feel like you can run on the New Orleans Saints front 7, and Saquon Barkley is going to get his. But what I think is ultimately going to boil down to, that Eagles secondary is not good. And the way Derek Carr is playing right now, I got to give him props. Clint Kubiak he doesn't need to change anything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let Chris Olave, let Rashid Shaheed do their thing, what they've been doing. Keep giving the ball to Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara needs to touch this bad boy about 20, 25 times in this game. Let the Eagles they need to let the Eagles feel it. They want to make a statement and tell the people, hey, these 2 games aren't flukes. We are for real. Even though the Eagles just lost to Atlanta, the Eagles are gonna come into this game pretty upset, and they're gonna come in here ready to make a statement. The New Orleans Saints have to do that first. They have to come out the gates running against that defense. I'm picking, even though I can't stand a lot of their fans, and I laughed at them that year. That last time the Super Bowl was in Atlanta, and Saints fans ran their mouth about how they were going to come into Atlanta and take over, and they couldn't even get past the Rams. You got to pick the Saints. I'm going with the upset. Well, honestly, I don't even think.
Hold on.
I don't think it's really an upset the way the Eagles look in that second half against Atlanta. So I'm picking the Saints.
Champ?
Philadelphia.
We going with the special stuff. Hold on.
Then I'm standing on business.
I knew he was gonna do it.
Ain't no way in the world I'm finna pick the Aints to win anything. Ain't no way in the world. No disrespect, Brant, but I can't pick the Aints in this situation.
I know you could.
Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting one. This
God,
is not
Jim
an
being
interesting
strong.
one right here. Broncos at Buccaneers. Bucks are 6-point favorites. Fair to say, Bucks.
The Yucks, yeah.
Yeah, Tampa.
Now, this is going to be one of the least interesting games. Unfortunately, for the rest of New York, New Jerseyans, they're going to have to watch Giants at Browns.
Oh, God.
And Cleveland is a 6.5-point favorite. We have the opportunity to watch Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson going toe-to-toe. Champ, who wins?
I'm gonna tell you right now, and you heard it, and you heard it here first. Let me put my face in this camera real quick, real good.
Don't do it, Champ.
Look, I'm not gonna say anything bad.
Okay.
If Deshaun Watson loses this game, and it's a bad performance, start looking. You might as well just start selling your house and everything, because guess what? It's going to get ugly in Cleveland. It's going to get uglier than I like to say. It's going to get uglier than the Masterpiece sneakers for him. I can guarantee you. So I'm letting you know that right now. If he loses this game against the New York Giants, it's going to be on. And you're going to start hearing all of these rumblings in a minute. But I'm picking the Browns. But if he loses this game and he doesn't have at least a decent performance, you might well just go ahead and sell your house, your apartment, or any penthouse building that you have, because your ticket for Cleveland is finna be punched out. Mark my words on that.
Might be uglier than the time Tyson bit Holyfield's ear, but that's a story for another day.
Oh my God!
You be talking about me on the pipe bombs.
I love Mike Tyson. Hey man, hey, BRF.
I mean, come on, man. I'm just saying, I want to take your heart. I want to eat your children. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, what are we talking about here? But anyways, this is what I'll say though. Deshaun Watson did have a better performance against Jacksonville, and Cleveland's going to win this game just for the standpoint. I don't think that defense is going to allow it, considering they're going against Daniel Jones and that offensive line. Cleveland, I think, okay. I'm going to start doing this on the picks. Even though I don't play the fantasy like that, I do like to give picks from time to time, looking at the matchups and be like, hey, like play this quarterback or play this running back or play this wide receiver or play this defense. Play Cleveland's defense this Sunday. It would not shock me if they get at least 5 sacks against the New York Giants this Sunday. I'm picking Cleveland because the defense is not going to allow it to happen. All Deshaun Watson's got to do is play like he did against Jacksonville. Competent, decent quarterback play, no mistakes. Let the defense wreak havoc on that offensive line. Bam, done. Cleveland's defense is not going to let them lose this game, I feel. I got Cleveland winning.
Grant?
God, picking between the massage menace or the overpaid bum is like asking me to do. Oh my God, it's hard to pick between the two. Look, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Deshaun Watson's career is over, and I know y'all talked about this last week, but I said this before. Deshaun, this contract that they gave him is ending up going to be one of the worst in NFL history because of what you gave him and what you sacrificed to get that, and to see how it's turning out for your team. And it's the same side with New York. You paid Daniel Jones, the numbers beside myself, $40 million for him to do what? Nothing. And as much as I feel like I want to give this game to Cleveland, in all honesty, I would have Cleveland winning this game just on the basis of New York is so bad. It's like, it wouldn't surprise me if they messed around and won this game. I don't have this even being a high-scoring game. I think I had this like 1917 Cleveland because I don't see a world where these teams are going to play incredible. I think this is going to be a defensive battle, and I think Cleveland's going to edge it out. But there's no way I'm picking New York right now with how that team's going.
I'm going to give the Giants the victory. I'm going to give them the upset in this one. Daniel Jones, he looked good, albeit against my Commanders, even though the Commanders ironically won that game. Not even scoring a touchdown, just field goals, kind of like Pittsburgh did to Atlanta. But I think Daniel Jones will play good. Deshaun Watson, on the other hand, I don't know. Is the offensive line going to be back? And unless you tell me Nick Chubb is going to be back, no problem, BRF. Unless you tell me the offensive line is going to be back, Nick Chubb is going to be back. Deshaun Watson at this point looks washed. It is, unfortunately. All right, next game, guys. Bears at Colts. Colts are a 1-point favorite. Grant, you go first.
I got Indy winning this one. Look, AR-15, I think this is going to be the game where they actually find something to work, because overall, Indianapolis has not been that bad. Even though they're 0-2, they have played very consistent football, and they have kept it close. They almost played Houston, and they almost had a shot at beating Green Bay in their last game, and I think this is really going to help them. I have them lose. I just feel like with Chicago, after watching the Texans game, if that O-line does not protect Caleb Williams, I will rip every single hair out of my head. That's the biggest threat I have with Caleb. And I know that game against Houston didn't go well for him. But looking at it from this perspective, if I think Indy's going to get this win, it's at Lucas Oil. They're going to come in and win this game. I think Indy finally gets their big win. And I don't know if Chicago is going to be able to stop AR-15 when he throws that football. Because when he can throw that football, my goodness, you better have somebody waiting.
Champ.
Oh, man. Hey, I go with the same pick that Grant did. I go with the same pick.
All right. We still got to wait on BRF. Got to take care of some things. Next one. Panthers at Raiders. Raiders are 6-point favorites. They're coming off an impressive victory last week against Baltimore. Carolina struggled. Boy, did they struggle against the Los Angeles Chargers. As I mentioned, Bryce Young is benched. Andy Dalton is going to be the starter. I have the Raiders winning this one. All I'm going to say for Carolina and North Carolina fans, pray. That's all you gonna need. BRF, I'm gonna let you go. Who do you have for the Bears and Colts game and for the Panthers Raiders game?
The Bears and the Colts game. That's gonna be a close game. I'm gonna give a slight edge to the Colts, just simply because of how that Bears offensive line has been looking this year. Terrible. In the words of Charles Barkley, terrible. They ain't been good at all this year. I got the Colts winning that game. And what was the other game?
Panthers at Raiders.
Raiders, move on. Next.
Grant?
Say that again. Sorry, my audio cut out.
Panthers at Raiders.
Oh, Raiders. I'm not picking the Panthers. They're so bad. They're going to have to. We already said this before. I'm picking the Raiders. The Panthers. They need Jesus.
And Champ, I won't even waste your time. You going with Raiders. So, and there ain't no way in hell you picking Carolina.
No, the board is unanimous. The board is unanimous.
Interesting one right here. Miami at Seattle. Seattle is a 4.5-point favorite. Remember, Miami cannot go without Tua Tagovailoa. Seattle's been looking pretty good. I'm gonna go with Seattle in this one. Who do y'all have?
Seattle, because I don't know what that offense is going to do without Tua.
I agree.
I know they're gonna do without Tua. Nothing. Skylar Thompson is their QB1. You have to pick Seattle here.
Okay. I gotta agree with the panel. I got Seattle. I don't know if you have no Tua. I don't know what Miami can do offensively. You can have all the weapons in the world. I don't think Skylar Thompson's going to do anything. And I look at Geno Smith, man. He has been putting Seattle on his back and has been putting them through this 2-0 phase. And people are going to say, oh, they are crazy. Watch the film. In their last week, Geno Smith literally had to put them on his back, strap in the backpack, and run down the field in order to have that big win. With that in mind, I personally have Seattle winning this game.
And I'll say this real quick too. I said it before the season started. Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to turn into the number 2 receiver on this team. And I feel like he's already done that in like 2 games. So I'm telling you, breakout player, Jackson Smith and Jigba just gives a completely different element to that offense. Even though Tyler Lockett can still play, JSN just gives a completely new element to this offense to contrast with what DK Metcalf brings to the table. I've been a fan of his since Ohio State. So yeah, Jackson, for people who are starting to really see now, Jackson Smith and Jigba is that dude.
All right, guys.
Agree.
No question about that. 3 big games. America's game of the week on Fox. Ravens at Cowboys. Baltimore is a 1-point favorite. 2 tough losses, the season opener against the Kansas City Chiefs and against the Las Vegas Raiders. I would feel comfortable picking Baltimore if they would just run the football more and more, which is the Dallas Cowboys' weakest link. They can't stop the run. They can't stop a nosebleed. So if Lamar, Derrick Henry, and also the other running backs for the Baltimore Ravens, if they can run the football, stop asking Lamar to throw the football as much, I think Baltimore should do well. And on top of that, Dallas's running game, look, you have Zeke there, but you're only bringing him there because Tony Pollard is no longer there. He's with the Titans. Imagine if you had a Blake Corum. Imagine if you had any of these running backs from the previous couple of drafts. Dak Prescott is going to ask to do too much, and Dak is going to make some plays, but he's also going to make mistakes. And he's really going up against the Ravens defense. And I find it hard to believe Baltimore would be 0-3. So I have Baltimore in this one. Champ?
I'm going to just say this. If that performance that the Dallas Cowboys gave us on Monday, this past Sunday, is any indication of what they're going to do this week against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they don't have a chance. In the great words of someone famous from the wrestling business, they don't have a chance in Ichi double hockey sticks. So, yeah, I'm going with Baltimore. They're going to run all over those guys.
BRF.
Man, you don't think Derrick Henry's looking at that film for this week with Dallas, with what they did in the run defense game, and you don't think he's licking his chops at that opportunity? Man, if I'm Baltimore, I get Lamar Jackson, I get Derrick Henry, and I get Justice Hill, and I just 3-head hydra them to death. I run it down their throat so much they wouldn't be able to feel anything after this game. I would just run it down their throats. I wouldn't even throw the ball that much. Their run defense is just, God, they suck. The run defense suck, and just flat, just not being nice about it. They're not good. And it's one thing to lose that game the way they did against Kansas City. To lose that game the way they did against the Raiders, blowing a 10-point lead, you got to think they about to show some pride coming up in Dallas. I don't think Baltimore's going to pull a New Orleans. They might pull a opposite as far as like with the New Orleans Saints, the way they beat them throwing the ball. I think Baltimore's going to do that to Dallas running the ball.
Grant?
Yeah, you know what the worst part is about being a Lamar Jackson fan? Yeah, not just Mookie, but it's also the fact that going 0-2 this season, if that wasn't worse enough, having to just see this stuff. Like the last time Baltimore went 0-2 was, I believe, almost 10 years ago, and they didn't finish the season well. Yeah, you started it. This is all you are. This is your fault, man. Your fault. I think this is the game where they wake up. Look, if they, in the words of a wise lady, enough with the trick plays, Kurt, run the dang ball. If they give Derrick Henry the football and they run, they can beat Dallas. We saw what happened again in their run game when the Saints played. They looked completely outclassed, completely outpaced, and they looked stunned. I think Baltimore wins this game as long as they run the ball. Stop trying to get the pass game going. You know Lamar's a damn running back that's disguised as a quarterback at this point. Just if you let them run the ball, they will win this game. Give me Baltimore, please.
All right, next game. Interesting one. Really good one. Detroit at Arizona. Remember, guys, I did pick Tampa Bay to beat Detroit. And Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals last week against the Los Angeles Rams, boy, he looked good. Remember, Kyler got a bunch of criticism for saying it's not his job to get Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball, and he made sure that was a responsibility in week 2. Marvin Harrison Jr. played great. 2 touchdown catches, over 100 yards. Kyler Murray looked like the old Kyler Murray. But against Detroit, I'm going to go with Detroit in this one, 37-30. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think Detroit should win this one. As long as Dan Campbell doesn't do anything dumb or risque, because we've criticized him in late pivotal situations. Champ, we did criticize him last year, particularly the NFC Championship game. I think Jared Goff will have a better performance, but I'm going with Detroit 37-30. Champ, you go.
Everybody from the 313, go ahead and put your hands up and follow me. I'm going with Detroit.
BRF. This game definitely has the makings of a shootout. I'm thinking both teams are getting 32, but I'm going with Detroit because Detroit has Aiden Hutchinson and Arizona doesn't.
Grant?
Yeah, same here. I'm going with Detroit, man. Look, Arizona had a great game against the Rams, but the Rams are in rebuild mode. I think this game needs Jared Goff's going to go crazy. I think this is going to be a big game for the Lions, and I think they take it home.
All right, 49ers at Rams, and the 49ers are 6.5-point favorites. BRF.
I think Rams are in rebuild mode at this point. The top 2 receivers are done. San Francisco's going to focus on Kyron Williams pretty much all game. You gotta go San Francisco here. They're gonna make them completely one-dimensional at this point. Taking away Kyron Williams, and they don't have the targets behind Puka and Cooper Kupp to really do anything. I got San Fran.
Champ.
Look here. This is the battle of the hospital teams, if you ask me, because if you really look at it, everybody's out for San Francisco as well. Deebo Samuels is out. Christian McCaffrey is out. George Kittle is out. And Ricky Pearsall is out. I mean, This is just a battle of the hospital people. So I'm just gonna be real. Hard to pick because there's so many players injured. I'll take the Rams in an upset. I'll go off on a limb on this one. I'll take the Rams in an upset because it's going to be interesting to see what Brandon Ayuk is going to do now that everybody's focusing on him now. It's going to be very, very interesting. Let's see if you can earn that contract you just signed in the offseason that you made such a big stir about. Now that you don't have all of these targets around you distracting the defense from you. Now they're going to key in on you. Let's see if Brock Purdy can force a few balls to you.
Yeah, I agree. I gotta go with the 49ers. I don't see a way they lose this game. I understand the Vikings game was a bad loss, but I think this Rams game, again, there's no way I see them losing. I got the Niners winning, and if they do lose, heads are gonna roll. And if they lose, I think it's gonna look ugly, but I think 49ers handle this.
All right. Next one. The Sunday night football game. Champ, I'm gonna let you go first. Chiefs at Falcons.
FILA. Forever. I love Atlanta. Rise up.
He wants to go to Magic City, ladies and gentlemen.
Nothing wrong with a little Magic City here or there.
Nothing wrong. We're going to King of Diamonds this time.
Oh my God. Okay.
BRF.
Lord have mercy. Okay, I'm gonna stick with my theory as far as like what we talked about earlier. I think Sunday night is finally gonna be the reawakening of Kyle Pitts. I really, for some reason, think Kyle Pitts is finally gonna go off in this game. I think this is gonna be a game that the Falcons win. I'm calling the upset here as well. I think the Falcons beat KC, but I think it's going to be on the strength of their running game, but Kyle Pitts' ability to command the ball like in the middle of the field, because I mean Drake and Darnell I think are still capable of getting theirs, but I think Kyle Pitts reminds the world of who he is when he has a good quarterback getting him to rock, because people forget he had Matt Ryan that 1 year, even though he scored 1 touchdown. He almost broke Mike Ditka's single season yardage record at tight end for a rookie. So I think Sunday's the Kyle Pitts show. I think Atlanta takes us in an upset. Kyle Pitts has to go off, though. He has to go off.
Grant?
I completely agree with y'all. But look, I rooted for Atlanta one time in my life because I can't stand Philly. That is not happening again. I got the Chiefs winning this. Patrick Mahomes, look, regardless of what we think about Patrick Mahomes, he is going to go down in history as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And looking at this game, I think this game is just showing me from everything I've seen from the Chiefs, I don't see a way they lose this game. I think it's still going to be close because I think Atlanta's defense is really going to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes to get rid of the ball. And I think the biggest thing I need him to do, he's doing this better. Give your receivers the opportunity to get downfield, and they will show you wonders. We've seen that with Xavier Worthy. We've seen that with a bunch of other guys on this team, and I think that's why the Chiefs win.
And not only that, we talk about Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelce. Now, Travis Kelce hasn't looked like the Travis Kelce back then, but I think they're going to have to do a thing to take him out the game as well. And plus, no Pacheco. So you're going to have to rely on Kareem Hunt, and you're going to have to rely on Patrick Mahomes using his legs. But guys,
quick news. I'm just about to say quick news update. I think the coaches have already said they're not elevating Kareem Hunt for this game.
Right.
So it's going to be Samaje Perine starting, I think, for Kansas City.
All right. Don't they still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Yeah, but they don't have any trust in him.
Yeah. I overlooked one game, guys. Interesting one. Both teams are 2-0. Chargers at Steelers. And Pittsburgh is a 3-point favorite.
Chargers.
I'm gonna go Pittsburgh. I'm gonna go Pittsburgh. All right, bro. TJ Watt is on his defensive player of the year revenge tour. I got Pittsburgh.
Grant?
Yeah, look, I think this is going to be a very interesting game on both sides. Like, I like how it looks for both teams, but I would be shocked if Pittsburgh went out here and took an L, because I think that offense is starting to wake up. And as much as I love to look at the Chargers, man, free Justin Herbert. That's why I'm going with Pittsburgh.
All right. The Monday Night Football games. Doubleheader. We got the Jaguars at Bills. You'll watch that one 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. Buffalo is a 5-point favorite. I think it's fair to say Buffalo wins that one.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Buffalo.
And the next one, my Commanders going up against the Bengals. Bengals are a 7-point favorite. Commanders won last week against the New York Giants, but remember, we won that game by scoring field goals. I got Bengals winning this one. I find it hard to believe that the Bengals are going 0-3. As much as I would love to see the Commanders winning this one, I just think Joe Burrow, look, the Bengals, they struggle in the regular season. They struggle in the regular season early, but then as the season progresses, they start to get hot. And I think we're going to see that with the Bengals yet again. So I got the Bengals winning this one, not even close.
The board is unanimous, I think.
All right.
Over here.
Yeah, I think this is a Lord, I hate to talk it. I think the Washington defense should be a get right game for Cincinnati. So yeah.
But let's get into some WWE or wrestling. Favorite John Bradshaw Layfield moment. I will go first. The I Quit match between him and John Cena.
Ooh.
Talk about bloodshed in that match between Cena and Bradshaw Layfield. Remember that chair shot that John Bradshaw Layfield gave Cena? Kind of like how he gave Eddie Guerrero with all that blood coming out. And then Bradshaw as the heel just like, remember, he was grabbing those cords and strangling John Cena's neck. And then he was telling John Cena, quit. And Cena's like, hell no. Oh. And then my other favorite John Bradshaw Layfield moment. Do you remember when when John Cena poured a bunch of fish guts on John Bradshaw Layfield on SmackDown? Remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh, that was.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
because that was the night Cena introduced the Spinner WWE Championship.
Yes, that was the night in which he introduced the new WWE Championship, the spin one. And my other favorite John Bradshaw Layfield moment. Man. The No Way Out match between him and the Big Show. The barbed wire steel cage matches. I mean, that was a really good match between the two. And of course, how last week we talked about Teddy Long. Champ talked about tonight you will go one-on-one with the Undertaker. So John Bradshaw as a heel, man, he was very underrated as a heel. I mean, he had to deal with Eddie Guerrero, he had to deal with Cena, he had to deal with Booker T, he had to deal with Taker, he had to deal with a lot of them cats down at SmackDown. But as a heel, Bradshaw was great. But Champ, I'm gonna let you go.
First of all, people keep talking about finishers in wrestling history. The clothesline from hell.
Yep.
Is one of the more better finishers in wrestling history, especially when he hit Billy Gunn with it, because he almost just tears him from his senses every time he hit Billy Gunn with the clothesline from hell. And I mean, it just comes out of nowhere, you know. Remember when he clotheslined from hell, Rey Mysterio as he came off the ropes?
Oh,
yeah. So I mean, that's one of the more underrated finishing moves in the wrestling history. Number one. Look, as a heel, if you look at certain things in the news right about now, and you look at Bradshaw Layfield back in 2004, Bradshaw was years ahead of his time. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, if you think I'm lying, go look at some of the stuff that's happening on the news right now and put that side by side with John Bradshaw Layfield back in 2004 right now. There's literally no difference in it. There's no difference. It's like, both just rich guys with all this bravado. Everybody knew that Bradshaw was this tough guy. And it's just like, like I said, if you know, you know. Because as a heel, it's kind of like, as I watch the news sometimes, it's kind of like, is that, who was that Bradshaw right there? That's how I look at it at this point in time, because it's so similar at a certain point, man. It's very, very similar. Favorite Bradshaw Layfield moment? This is a hard one. Well, you know what? I gotta say, before the days of JBL, I gotta say when he was with the APA, man. When he was with the APA, the Aqualite Protection Agency, I know he wasn't the JBL as a heel, but them as entertainment was theater. Him and Farouk was flat out theater, man. And because they reminded you of the everyday guys that sit behind the bar and they play cards all day, and everybody know not to mess with these guys. So especially when they got into that, especially when they had the bar fight with the Easter Bunny hopping into the bar at a certain point on SmackDown. That was one of the more memorable moments. Another memorable moment, the entire run in 2004, because we was just waiting on him to lose a match. And I especially thought that he was about to lose that last. I was like, Taker got him right where he wants him in that last ride match. They got him right where he wants him in that last ride match. And for him to come out like that, I mean, in typical heel fashion, it's just like you waiting for this guy to lose. I mean, one of the longest reigning SmackDown champions in history. You're waiting on him to lose, and he doesn't. And so that entire run of 2004 as a heel, very underrated. And guess what, man? Look, for you to win a last ride match, to win a Texas Bull Rope match, to beat Booker T and all of those guys, to piggyback off of PSP, that was one of the more impressive runs in wrestling history. So that entire run in 2004 was great. I mean, the segments with the APA, with them fighting in the bar is great. Them winning the tag team championships because they were a powerhouse as a team, especially when they were feuding with the Dudleys. That was great as well. Shout out to John Bradshaw Layfield, man, and make it so crazy. He's smart like that in real life. I mean,
he is.
That wasn't just a gimmick that he was playing. It was, he really knows stocks, bonds, all of that stuff. I mean, when you talk about living your gimmick and knowing who you are, that's him in real life. He knows his stuff as far as portfolios is concerned. His stock brain was up there. I mean, was up there with the Wall Street clients, number one for years.
BRF.
Yeah, JBL is definitely one of the more underrated characters of our time. I mean, yeah, his heel work in 2004 was something SmackDown really needed, because even though that time they were built around the SmackDown 6, but then at the same time, it's like you needed that one heel to still really stand out and kind of like, be that, kind of set the tone. And when he finally got the ball, he was able to do it. Of course, obviously that incident, that infamous incident that we don't need to talk about. If you know, you know. You know what? I'm gonna say this. This is funny though. One of my favorite. I hate to say it, but one of my favorite JBL moments was he was on. For one, he was on the receiving end of one of the greatest shoot promos in the history of the business. Paul Heyman, ECW One Night Stand 2005. He was on the receiving end of one of the greatest burns in the history of the business. Well, Paul Heyman looked that man dead in the face and he said, "The only reason why you were WWE champion for a year is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays." But it was like the reaction. It was the reaction after he said that, because you're not about to sit here and tell me any average man would hear something like that and their world just wouldn't be like shook for like the next month. But it was like the reaction afterwards, like he almost like he just took it in stride and kept pushing, like, kind of like doing his best Fred Sanford impersonation, faking like he's having a heart attack, like, oh my goodness, like just typical heel fashion. Like, it's like he ate it and kept going, and that was another thing that kind of made the character stand out. But if I have to go like my all-time favorite JBL moment, it was like, we know about the heel run, we know about the APA run. Any clothesline from hell against Billy Gunn, like, just chef's kiss. But like one thing we don't talk about is his announcer run, because even though it did get kind of a little stale and a little boring after like a while at the beginning, it was fun when he became a commentator. But he had this one particular moment where I think it was it was Heath Slater going on his little legend run, and now he was just losing to like all the legends. And so this particular one, Lita showed up. And Heath Slater gets tickled because Lita? Nah, Lita brings the APA in. And then JBL proceeds to hit the clothesline from hell on Heath Slater. It puts you in the mind of that Shawn Michaels sale against Psycho Sid, that Royal Rumble in San Antonio, where Sid puts the boot up and Shawn basically does a full roll and literally does a headstand on his head to sell that boot. That's what that that's what that Heath Slater sell like. Like, he literally rode up on his shoulders, onto his neck, and his feet was literally like dangling in the air before he finally came back down. It was the Heath Slater sell of that clothesline more than anything. That just was like, I literally laughed for like 10 minutes after that. I was like, you know what, Heath Slater, you got destroyed, but you know what? I salute you, sir, because that clothesline from hell had no business to look that good, and you made it look amazing. So shout out to Heath Slater. But yeah, man, JBL is like definitely like he's a very underrated character with moments that would get him canceled if he did it today. So definitely shout out to him, and shout out for the work he's doing now, being back, doing wrestling and stuff like that, like MLW, TNA. Shout out to him for what he's doing now. I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he's heel or face, but shout out to him, because he's still showing that clothesline from hell is still one of the most devastating finishers in the history of the business.
Grant?
Well, JBL is one of those characters that you look at it and you either loved him or you hated him. And I think one of the craziest moments for me, the moment that like kind of solidifies it for me of how much of a heel he was, Eddie Guerrero in that Texas Bull Rope match, when Eddie hit the turnbuckle at the end, but JBL hit his back on it first. So technically, by default, JBL won the title, and everyone in that crowd was pissed because no one liked JBL, because he's like that one kid who always wants to rub in your face about how much money he's got, and everyone loved Eddie. They wanted Eddie to win. And the biggest thing that people always hated about JBL, man, every time he always would think that the chances of him losing that title would be over. He have his corporate goons to come out and they drag him out. They beat everyone up. They get the match called off. It'd be a DQ. Everybody be mad. Teddy Long made him fight The Undertaker, Booker T, John Cena, and all those dudes in one match, and they still found a way to lose. And at that point, it was just like, JBL just has this way of like making you mad. And it's like, because some of the stuff he's done, including some stuff, we don't got to go down that route, but he is just the craziest character. And the APA, you want to talk about the definition of the wrestling gangsters? These dudes were like, you want me to beat somebody up? Bet how, and they throw $1,000 on the table. And him and Ron Simmons look at each other. All right, they pick up the chairs and just start walking to the ring. And at this point, these boys were hilarious. And JBL is probably one of those crazy characters. And apparently he's been showing up at a few indie shows just randomly out of the blue. Not doing like actually wrestling, but like, just showing up and being on the side. And, seeing that like people will still give him that huge round of applause just shows how much of impact JBL has, man. He's one of those really iconic heels that you never really forget sometimes.
Yeah, man. He definitely, I mean, I hated him. I mean, I was a diehard Eddie Guerrero fan. The moment when he won that match against Eddie Guerrero in the Great American Bash, I was furious. I was upset, man. But a lot of people couldn't stand Bradshaw Layfield because of all the points that Grant alluded to. I mean, from New York City, driving the limousine, the team that he had from Orlando Jordan, the Basham brothers, and how they always interfered in his matches. But he was a great heel. No question about it.
Ironic that faction was called the Cabinet of all things.
You ain't lying there, champ. You ain't lying there.
That faction was called the Cabinet.
And speaking of underrated, to end off the show, favorite T-Pain song. BRF, you go first.
Favorite T-Pain song. Good Lord. 2 minute name, man. 2 minute to name. You know what? My favorite T-Pain song. I mean, if you gotta pick one, I mean, for me, you gotta go with the old reliable. For the sake of this show and how we love the kids, I'm just gonna say I'm in love with a dancer and leave it at that. I'm gonna say I'm in love with a dancer and keep it pushing. But nah, for real though, that song was just I mean, the flow, the beat, you know what I'm saying? Just the vibe. I mean, the vibe was just perfect for that song, man. And just you couldn't beat the vibe for that song. And that was like for like a good at least a good 7, 8, 9 months. I mean, that was the song. So yeah, I would definitely say that's like my all time favorite one. But then another one that you got to put respect on is I can't believe it. You got to put respect on that song. You just have to. That and Chopped and Screwed with Luda. Those are 2 songs you got to put respect on.
Buy You a Drink. Love that track. And the other one with Jamie Foxx, even though it wasn't his song, but the feature one, the Blame It on the Alcohol one. I love that. But Can't Believe It. Him and Wayne, though, I love that track from 2008. Man, T-Pain was very underrated. Grant.
Man, there's so many T-Pain songs to pick from. It's just like he has such a ridiculous catalog of songs. Before I get into it, just so y'all know, Ohtani just hit 52 home runs.
Oh my God.
I know, but really quick, in all due seriousness, my favorite song, honestly, in all honest opinion, has to be low with Flo Rida, man. Like when that song comes on, wherever you're at the function, everybody starts going crazy, and you know those lyrics word for word, bar for bar, man. It's just a T-Pain classic, or maybe the other one is buy me a drink, but sometimes people can misconstrue that joke, and oh my god, no, but. Sorry about that. Nebraska just lost to Illinois.
No.
In overtime. They're 31-24 at home.
Wow.
I just saw it as I turned around. They were 30-40.
Oh my god.
They scored on that drive, and then Dylan Raiola got sacked twice and made it 30-42, and he had to run the ball down. That's crazy. That sucks, bro. Sorry about that, but I just turned around and saw that. But if I had to pick two good T-Pain songs, in my opinion, those are the best.
Champ?
Man, look. That era, you just kind of had to be there, man. You kind of had to be there. Because during that time, T-Pain was essentially the Nate Dogg of the South, man.
Facts. Perfect comparison.
T-Pain was the Nate Dogg of the South. And during that 07 run.
R.I.P. Nate Dogg.
R.I.P. to Nate Dogg.
Most definitely.
The great Nate Dogg, man. But I always say this, if you ever want to get a good hook on a song, go back and either get Nate Dogg. You need a good hook on a song. Get Nate Dogg, God rest his soul, or get T-Pain 2007. So, I mean, if you want a good hook on a song, you got to get one of those two. And during that 07 run, T-Pain was essentially the Nate Dogg of the South, man. I know it wasn't his song, man, but every time I hear this song, I love it to life. I'm so hood.
Yes.
Because it's just his voice. It had a lot of great rappers, a lot of great artists on there. Ludacris, Plies, you name them. But when he come on there, I'm so hood. It's just something that just makes you want to go get ratchet real quick, man.
All I do is win.
Yeah. All I do is win.
Welcome to my hood, too. That's another good one.
Yeah, welcome to my hood. There's another one, but I'll talk about that one when we go off the air. I gotta say, buy you a drink. That was a good one. And look, you got money. That one was a good one as well, man. Him and Lil Wayne. Like I said, T-Pain was the Nate Dogg of the South. That 07 run was unmatched, man. The features that I think the only person who was doing more features at that time was Wayne during that time. It was just like, I mean, not to mention, man, I know it wasn't his song either, Good Life.
Yeah,
Kanye. How he did on the bridge. The good life better than the life I live when I thought I was gonna go crazy. I mean, that was amazing, man. Not to mention bringing back the auto-tune, man, for the younger generation to kind of pay homage. A lot of people consider that, biting, but I call it paying homage, man. A lot of the young cats these days, they don't know about Roger and Zapp. They didn't know about Teddy Riley. So I consider that paying homage. And not to mention he was talented even without it, and he proved it. So, hey, man, shout out to T-Pain, Nate Dogg of the South, man. Hey, you made my early heydays great.
And that concludes the rest of the Sports PSP podcast. Fellas, final words, and tell them where to follow you at. Grant.
Grant's Glimpse all over the board, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever we make it, telling sports stories and telling sports shorts to get y'all entertained. So follow them. I got about 20 or so videos that I got to wrap it up, and they're going to start cranking these out once a day like clockwork. So make sure y'all tune in because there's going to be some good ones. Appreciate y'all having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk sports with y'all boys. It's a good way to get the night going. And, yeah, Nebraska, man, come on. All the dudes that call Dylan Raiola Baby Mahomes, please show your faces because now I know you feel stupid.
BRF?
BRF Sports, as always, is the TikTok handle. Go follow the TikTok. The link tree is in the bio. my Twitter/X, my IG, my Facebook page. Definitely click it. And also I am trying to start promoting the Discord as a little more. I have my BRF Sports Discord page. The link is in the bar. It's in the link tree. It's active. Click it. Come join. Come talk with me. I'm always looking for new people. I'm always trying to meet new people because that's what sports is. That's what sports talk is about. Meeting new people, finding similarities, differences, but at the end of the day, doing what we love to do, and that's talk sports. And also, outside of course, follow the Undisputed GOAT Sports Podcast with my homie Champ and our brother Flash 22. Definitely also Flash, follow that. But I am doing a wrestling podcast every Tuesday with Spiral Sports Media with the homie Elijah and my homie CJ. It's called the Takedown. Please go follow that. We did episode 2 this past Tuesday. We talked about Roman and Cody tagging in Bad Blood. We talked about the PWI top 500. Well, particularly we talked about the top 10 of the PWI 500. So definitely give that a look every Tuesday, 7:30. Give that a look. It's like I always say, a topic not thought about is a topic not talked about. Shout out to PSP, 18K. I'm telling y'all, man, that's the homie. Y'all need to follow that brother. That brother's doing great things. Shout out to Grant, man. Let me tell you something. Grant, I'm proud of you, bro, because you doing your thing. As a young cat in this game, trying to make a name for yourself, I'm proud of you. You know what you're talking about. You got a good head on your shoulder. I love getting on here talking sports with you. And I've always, my 706 brother Champ, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have no platform to be able to get on here and do what I enjoy to do. So shout out to you. I owe a lot to you. And as always, my brothers, we're going to keep doing this. Shout out to 706, the best district in the damn state of GA. Shout out.
Undisputed world champ, saving the best for last.
First and foremost, as I will always say, I'm always humbled to be here. It's always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be here with PSP. Shout out to PSP doing big things. He'll have 1 million followers before the end of the year out. We're going to speak life into that. We're going to speak life into that. We're going to speak death. We're going to speak life into that. He'll have 1 million before the year's over. Congratulations on 18,000. Hey, BRF had a hell of a time last night on the Undisputed GOAT podcast. Hey, we got more to come. Grant, hey, good luck this Sunday with the Saints, man, and keep doing what you're doing. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share the stage with you as well. And, hey, Undisputed GOAT podcast every Thursday with BRF and my brother Flash from Wisconsin. Hey, and also, we're almost up to 18,000 on TikTok. We are 17.7 right now. And look, I'm just, like I said, man, I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. And Columbus, Georgia, shout out to y'all. Calm it down tonight. All right? Calm it down.
All right. And y'all know where to follow me at Folks Sports PSP. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as IG Sports PSP, as well as TikTok Sports PSP 3. Hope everyone is enjoying a fantastic weekend. Make sure if y'all drinking, drink responsibly. Be responsible. Like I said last week, you don't want to end up like what happened with Shannon Sharp last week, but that's, again, a story for another day. I'm sorry. I just like throwing that out there, man. I can't stop laughing at that. And on that note,
and just don't get messed up and end up like sorry.
And on that note, we're going to end the show. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend and peace.
Okay.